In a gigantic commercial building, a kid is climbing the stairs, exhausted, saying he's about to pass out. He had to climb 28 floors and wonders why no one told him he would have to climb all that. He wouldn't have accepted this delivery if he'd known. He rings the doorbell and announces that the delivery has arrived. A woman with an angry face answers, saying, "Finally, huh?" and asks why he took so long, leaving him a bit confused. She snatches the bag from his hand and says he took too long, so he won't get any extra tip. He points to the elevator, saying he climbed 28 floors. But she's more concerned about the food arriving cold. While he seethes with anger, she says that nowadays you really can't rely on any delivery person. He wants to tell her to get her lazy butt off the couch and get it herself then. However, obviously he doesn't say any of that. As she slams the door in his face, the poor guy apologizes, remembering that he needs to stay calm and take deep breaths because he gets too many negative reviews, he won't be able to deliver anymore. Realizing now, unfortunately, he'll have to go down the 27 floors he climbed. Back on his scooter, he thinks it's his fault for being a broke loser. Something catches his attention, and he looks to the side, he sees a dungeon portal. The same old story. A few years ago, portals appeared that allowed you to enter other realms. These realms were full of creatures, a threat too strong for humanity alone to defeat, until one day the gods selected some humans to give extraordinary abilities to. These selected people would be the ones to venture into the dungeons and be called hunters by the rest of the world. But for him, seeing a portal is bad news since he'll have to take a detour to another street because entering it would be dangerous. Suddenly, he receives a call from his boss, scolding him, wanting to know what happened with the last delivery. The boss tells him to stop causing problems since he has a lot to deal with. He says the order he delayed was for an important person, so he'll go a week without getting any orders. He tries to say something, but the guy has already hung up. He sees in the app's review section that the woman from the 28th floor threw the food in the toilet because she said it was old and cold. He wants to call the boss to explain what's going on, but is being ignored. Now the boy is screwed. He's already late on his rent this week. Staring at the gate, he just wonders why he can't be one of the chosen ones and live a peaceful life as a hunter. Exhausted, he just wants to go home and calm down, until Harp plays on his phone indicating he received a delivery request. That window surprises him since he had never seen it before. He decides to click out of curiosity. The phone emits a flash, and when he opens his eyes, he's in a place that resembles the heavens. He's scared, wondering where he is. Is this a dream? Or has he finally been chosen by a mystical being? Nothing has really happened yet, but he's already crying with emotion, thinking his life as a delivery boy is over. However, he then realizes that his phone still shows a delivery to be made and is even displaying a map. He's confused because the delivery says to pick up a nectar. With nothing better to do, he decides to accept. As soon as he clicks, the golden gate in front of him opens. He swallows hard, wondering where he's going, and he starts riding above the clouds, passing by the castle. Looking at his phone, he's scared. That place is exactly where the map indicates, but it's something surreal. It's really where the gods live. He enters a palace with giant pillars. In front of a huge door, he wonders if this is where he's supposed to pick up the items. Hesitant, he knocks on the door, knowing that if there might be a god there, he could have a chance to become a hunter. Someone opens the door, asking who he is. Seeing the girl with blonde hair and a white cloak, he recognizes her immediately as a goddess. Stumbling over his words, he says he's there to pick up the order. However, she comes right up to him and asks why a human is there in Olympus. She says he invaded, but he points to his phone, saying he's here to pick up a bottle of nectar. She looks thoughtful and says it might be Herma's doing. She sighs, telling him to wait while she fetches something humans shouldn't even touch. She hands him the bottle of nectar and warns that if her brother doesn't receive it on time, he will be very angry. She gets in his face and says he better not take a sip of it, and he says he understands. She points to her eyes and says she's watching him, then slams the door in his face. Once again, he's angry. What kind of nonsense is this? He thought he would escape the life of a delivery boy, but now he has become a delivery boy who will also be scolded by the gods. Staring at the bottle, he says it looks like apple juice and thinks about quitting the delivery. However, he reasons that if it's her brother who will receive it, he must also be a god. And since he's here in Olympus, he might as well ask this other guy to maybe turn him into a mythical being. He puts on his helmet, motivated, saying this is the last delivery he will ever make. And with that, he starts driving through the lava. A notification says he's approaching. After a mountain of magma, there's a small house. He arrives at the door, exhausted because it's hotter than a sauna there, and announces that the delivery has arrived. The door suddenly opens. The poor guy is dripping with sweat because it's scorching inside. In the background, there's the sight of a dwarf hammering on a forge who turns around angrily and asks who entered. Embarrassed, the protagonist says he's not an intruder, he's just here to make a delivery. The dwarf approaches him, eyes gleaming, saying it seems his sister sent this guy. The poor boy can't believe the two are siblings. They look nothing alike. However, at this moment, the dwarf notices he's not Hermes. Preparing his aura, he says the boy arrived there uninvited. The protagonist, embarrassed, says it was his sister who asked him to deliver this thing. The dwarf realizes the nectar bottle is full and tells the boy it's amazing he brought it without taking a sip. The boy says he's not that kind of thief. Of course, he wouldn't drink someone else's stuff and hands it over, saying the dwarf can take it. The dwarf laughs, saying the boy is very honest. A sip of that nectar would have turned him into a god, yet he felt no temptation. At this moment, the protagonist is confused upon hearing this, already thinking that if he had taken a sip, he would be a god now. He eagerly moves to open the bottle, saying his life as a delivery boy is over. However, something interrupts. The dwarf grabs it, takes off the cap. The protagonist tries to say something, but it's too late. The guy has already taken a big gulp. He throws the bottle on the ground, saying it's even better when you drink it all at once. The boy is devastated, while the dwarf says he hadn't tasted such fresh nectar in a long time. Introducing himself as Hephaestus, he asks who the protagonist is. He replies that his name is Hajin. Hephaestus then thanks him, saying he is very honest. Before he can say anything, the dwarf is already leaving, saying that now that he's refreshed, he'll get back to work. However, Hajin puts his hand on his shoulder and asks him to wait. The dwarf asks what it is, and he says he hasn't been paid yet. Hephaestus turns around and asks if he's talking about the delivery fee. If that's the case, he should have already received it and walks away laughing like a fool. At that moment, Hajin checks the app on his phone, which emits a flash of light that ends up blinding him. In his system interface, it shows 1,000 points. He is in bed, saying he's sure it wasn't a dream. As soon as he looked at the app, he was surrounded by light and was back on Earth. However, now this little screen is in front of him. He's angry, saying he has no idea how to use these points. He was face to face with a god, so all he wanted was to become the strongest S-rank hunter in the world. The system gives a notification and says that points can be exchanged for various items in the shop. He decides to accept because he needs to find some use for these points. The shop has everything from a golden apple worth 1,000 points to a motorcycle worth 100,000. He gets angry, saying nothing is useful and everything is too expensive. He starts scrolling through the shop looking for something he can use in a hunter's gate. However, he begins to realize it's useless. He won't be able to live this adventurous life until something catches his attention. At the bottom, there are 10,000 won, or about $10 for 1 point. If this is true, just with this delivery he earned 10,000. Hesitant, he decides to touch it. As soon as he presses, a 10,000 won bill appears in front of him and falls into his lap. He picks it up, and it feels very real. The system updates, and now he has 999 points. The poor guy is in disbelief, looking at the bill, looking at the system. He presses again and again until it starts raining bills in the room. Now the sneaky grin on his face has changed. He throws the money up in the air, saying that's what he likes. In the next scene, he's even eating ramen with sewer worms, completely happy and obviously radiant. He went to a deposit machine and tested the money, which worked perfectly. He's crying with emotion that he earned around $10,000 from one delivery. The woman in the shop asks if it's really that bad, and he says it's actually too good. He's like a madman laughing alone in the corner of the restaurant. He's wondering what to do with the money when the TV talks about a guy's recruitment. He watches the news about the guild's preparation for the Tartarus gate, the most dangerous one of all. The guy hired is someone who placed in the top 5 of the hunter exam and has a contract with the mythical being Hephaestus. He recalls that Hephaestus is the name of the chubby dwarf, who now is the best customer he has ever had. He leaves the restaurant with a full belly, and then his phone rings. He figured something like this might happen, so he brought his scooter. The phone glows, notifying him of a new delivery, and as always, he gets teleported. Once again in Olympus, he opens his eyes. But this time, he's in a gigantic botanical garden. He's wondering where to pick up the delivery when someone calls his name, Hajin. A girl appears, introducing herself as the goddess Demeter. Hajin greets her, and she says she heard about him from her nephew. He asks who her nephew is, and she says it's Hephaestus. The poor guy thinks someone is messing with his family because no one looks alike. Radiant, she says that it seems he didn't drink any of the nectar and asks if she can trust him to deliver something. Of course, he says yes, he'll deliver anything. After all, it's easy money. He imagines that this time he'll receive something insane. Demeter activates an energy in her hand and creates a lunchbox. He's a bit confused, but she tells him to deliver this lunchbox to her daughter, explaining that unfortunately, the gods cannot leave their palaces without a good reason. Hajin didn't expect something so simple, but at least it will be easy. He's sure he'll deliver it, but suddenly she shivers and the entire garden around them rots in an instant. He looks around wondering what's happening, but she's already leaving, thanking him. He hopes there won't be any problems with the delivery or that it isn't a godly bomb. So he stores it on his scooter, imagining that the goddess wouldn't send something like that to her daughter. He decides to check the destination, but something catches his attention and a flash of light brings him back to Earth, leaving him confused. The app shows that the delivery is indeed in Korea. He remembers that the goddess said they can't leave their palaces without a good reason and figures it must be something like that. Apparently, he will meet her daughter when he gets there. He's never been so excited about a delivery before, already curious to know how many points he'll receive. Upon arriving at the destination, he takes off his helmet, saying it must be a joke. The delivery says he has to enter the most dangerous dungeon in the world, the Tartarus dungeon known as the Hunter's Graveyard. But he says it can't be that, the daughter must be just in front of the gate. Yet the phone says the destination has been updated, and the map clearly shows the inside of Tartarus. He shouts that there's no way he's entering that place and decides to cancel the order. However, below the 1-hour limit, it says that if he cancels, he will receive a divine punishment. A timer appears saying he has 42 minutes or he will turn into a pig with a human conscience. Desolate, he wonders what kind of punishment that is. He should have at least checked the information, but none of it makes sense. First of all, he can't get past those guards at the gate. The psycho starts thinking about all the foods made with pork. That's when the assistant window appears again, saying that if he needs any assistance, he can check the shop. He knows he has few points, so it wouldn't be useful. He starts planning to hire hunters to go in there. But in the shop, for 800 points, there's a replica of the Kaini, a helmet of haze that hides the user's presence for 30 minutes. He says that this limited time offer stuff is nonsense and clearly just a way to drain all the points he has. But since he'll turn into a pig if he doesn't accept, he decides to buy the helmet, vowing never to take another job again. The helmet appears out of nowhere, and as he tries to grab it, it rolls away. What fool! Now equipped, he has 38 minutes to make the delivery. He easily rides past the guards who don't notice his presence, only sneezing due to the cold wind. He heads towards the gate, terrified since it's one of the most horrifying places in the world. But with no other option, he goes on. Hajin Lee, a 20-year-old delivery boy with no hunter's license, no mythical contract, no supernatural powers or physical abilities, defies all odds. He becomes the first person to reach the deepest part of Tartarus. Looking around, he says there's no one there, but at least he got there quickly and won't be turned into a pig. He starts shouting, saying the delivery has arrived. From the darkness, a 3-headed wolf stares at him. The poor guy is terrified, wondering what it is. The beast comes drooling, ready to bite him. He, with no powers, thinks it would have been better to turn into a pig. The creature approaches face to face. He knows this is his end. He spent all he had on this damn helmet and now served himself on a platter to this monster. But then he remembers he had 2 uses of the helmet. The monster leaps to bite when he activates the helmet again. But now he's already under its teeth, it's too late. Until someone tells the beast not to eat anything dirty, the monster freezes for a moment. Hajin opens his eyes hesitantly, seeing he's not dead. He looks back and sees a little girl. He wonders why a child is in the deepest part of Tartarus. She approaches gracefully, petting the beast, saying this dog doesn't bite. The poor guy immediately sees she looks just like her mother, Demeter. He asks for permission and says he has a delivery. When someone behind asks where Persephone went, a pale man appears, saying it seems she went to play with Cerberus. The man then sees the protagonist and asks how a mortal had the courage to enter Hades' underworld. Embarrassed, the protagonist tries to explain but is already scared, having heard it's the king of the underworld. Hades says he's the first human to reach there in a long time since Orpheus. An aura surrounds Hajin, squeezing his neck. The poor guy can't breathe or speak. Hades says Orpheus went there to rescue his wife who had died, but the boy had come to steal his helmet. As soon as he grabs his hand, he notices it's a fake version. Persephone says they should listen to what the boy has to say first. With that, Hades releases Hajin, who falls, coughing. He asks why he entered this domain. Struggling to speak, he explains he came to make a delivery. Hades wants to know if it's a delivery for him, the god of the underworld. The protagonist says that's not the case, and he brought something that his wife sent for their daughter. They look at each other, confused. Hades wants to know why he's making the delivery and not Hermes. Trembling, Hajin says he doesn't know why, but that's what he was told to bring. Persephone recognizes the lunchbox sent. Hades asks if Hajin didn't say it was his wife who asked him to bring it. The poor guy says yes. She asked him to bring it to her daughter. Persephone explains that it was made by her mother-in-law. The girl is all radiant, saying it arrived warm. But hearing this, Hajin wonders if the two are a couple. He points to Hades, saying he's disgusting and too old for. Whoops, he covers his own mouth, realizing he spoke without thinking. But Hades heard him clearly and tells him to repeat those words to the king of the underworld. The protagonist starts babbling, trying to apologize but trembling. Hades just stares at him and then starts laughing like a fool. The protagonist is confused and Hades says he never imagined a human would have the courage to insult him, the god of the underworld. He asks Hajin's name, who responds while shaking. Hades warns that since this is the first time, he will forgive the insolence. However, if he does something again, he only needs to point a hand, and Hajin is surrounded by energy, understanding very well what will happen. With that, Hades says that the payment has been delivered and he can thank his mother-in-law for it. Immediately, the window blinks, and this time he receives 10,000 points plus an extra 5,000 from the god of the underworld. Hades even returns the helmet, saying he can keep the trinket. Hajin trembles and thanks him with a big smile. The scene changes to a man exhausted, facing a dragon. He prepares for combat. He is the captain of Team 1 and a combat-type hunter, Doyen Ha. He delivers a series of blows to the dragon, but it retaliates with a claw to his chest. However, someone else attacks from behind with an aura blade and the dragon notices. But the attack lands and the dragon rides in agony towards the sky and then falls defeated. The swordsman approaches Doyen and congratulates him, saying they finally conquered the first floor of Tartarus. This man is the guild master Yangwon and also ranks 3rd in the world. His name is Songjin Park. Everyone there is celebrating. He says it's a great day because their guild has now reached the deepest part of Tartarus. However, everyone is really exhausted. Seongjin thanks Doyeon, saying it's all thanks to him. Doyeon, emotional, says he's not that good. Everyone is hugging, saying they will stay together forever. Seongjin tells Erin to go easy on the dragon. She is ranked 17th in the world and says she understands. The boss says he knows she wants to collect many mana stones, but it's okay, no need to rush. However, she feels something. She dismounts from the dragon, warning that something is coming at high speed. The team stares into the void, knowing they are exhausted and it will be very difficult to defend themselves. Seongjin tells everyone to prepare and Erin says it's almost here. The leader warns that if things get tough, everyone should flee and will try to hold the monsters back. But the guys are emotional, saying they will fight with him to the end of the world. He smiles, but Erin warns it's arriving now. In the distance, there's the sound of an engine, and obviously, the shadow of a motorcycle with a helmet. Seongjin is shocked, wondering what the heck that is. Calmly, Hajin asks for permission to pass. Seeing the dragon, he says they are incredible, and he's glad they are there because the helmet's effect was about to end. He looks back and gives a thumbs up, telling them to be careful because from here on there are creatures with dark magic, and he speeds off on his scooter. No one in the guild has managed to say a word, so confused are they. The next scene talks about the number 150 million. If it were a measure in years, you would go back to the dinosaur era, a number close to the entire population of Korea. Normally, you get about $3 per delivery. You would need to make 50,000 deliveries to reach that total. But this is the exact amount he would receive if he exchanged his points now. The guy is grinning widely, right? He stared at that number all day. Of course, he was scared to death of turning into a pig. There was also a moment when he was almost eaten by a dog. Besides, he was almost strangled by the god of the underworld. Thinking about it, he suffered a lot to earn this money. But now he laughs. In the end, none of that matters because he earned a ton of money. And the weakest capitalist always wants more, obviously. He says from this moment on, but then his stomach growls and he realizes it's good to go eat something. Maybe a beer with fried chicken. Meanwhile, Seongjin was attending a conference. He's exhausted and goes out to talk to the members. Right after that, he has to talk to the president of the Hunter Association. The guy doesn't get a second of rest. Doyeon asks if he mentioned the delivery boy at the conference. He replies that he didn't. He prefers to keep it hidden for now since no one has any idea where that guy came from. They should have chased the guy to ask some questions, but everyone was exhausted and didn't know what to say. However, obviously, everyone in the guild is curious. The blonde says he was wearing a strange helmet and riding a scooter. Maybe it won't be too hard to find him. But Seongjin tells them not to worry too much since their goal is to conquer the dungeons, not to find out who the mysterious guy is. So he informs the two there that they need to make new weapons, so they'll have to go to the mining dungeon. Doyeon tries to complain but has no choice and asks what type of metal he wants. Seongjin thinks for a moment and says it's something called celestial metal. Meanwhile, our protagonist is eating his fried chicken. He was excited to eat until his phone rang. He jumped up, not wanting to miss any orders from the gods. He was hungry, but in a flash of light, he found himself surrounded by mountains, and right in front of him was Hephaestus' house once again. That's when he realizes he forgot his scooter and helmet. While he's wondering about this, someone is behind him. Suddenly, someone calls out to the boy, and he turns to see Hephaestus with tears in his eyes. Hajin asks why he's not inside the house. Crying, Hephaestus says he was expelled. Hajin is confused and asks what he's talking about. He explains that he was drinking and eating with his brother Dionysus when someone appeared, calling him dear and asking why he was drinking again. With that, the two were expelled and she said they shouldn't even think about coming back. Dionysus left immediately, but the little dwarf is abandoned there. Hajin says he understands but asks what he wants him to deliver. Desolate, Hephaestus says anything to drink or eat. Since he was expelled, he hasn't eaten anything. He implored, but even his sister didn't have nectar, and now only Hajin can save him. Hajin kind of understands but has no idea what a god eats or drinks. Lying on the ground, Hephaestus says if he could have some kind of meat with alcohol, it would be perfect. Hajin goes on his phone and tells him to wait a second. A flash of light happens while the dwarf is lying on the ground. He sniffs something until Hajin appears with the beer and chicken he had bought, saying he's happy to share. Hephaestus says he has no idea what that is, and our boy explains that it's a common combo in Korea. The sun is shining between the mountains and the dwarf is incredibly happy, saying he's never had such a refreshing drink in his life. He also thought the chicken piece was too small, but when he bites into it, it has the best taste he's ever had in his life. Hajin wonders if this guy is really a mythical being. The dwarf says he will give him a great reward and tells him to check his phone. At that moment, the phone rings, and when he looks, he's gained another 15,000 points from Hephaestus. The sneaky guy can't believe he earned $150,000 just for delivering some chicken. The dwarf even says that if he needs anything, just call. To him, this dwarf is the most lovable guy in the world, and he wants to hug him. He draws over affectionately when someone approaches. A voice calls out, "Dear," and they both turn. Hajin is startled. She asks why he's drinking again. "Man, what is this?" This is the goddess of plenty and density, everyone. The protagonist is moved to tears by her beauty, saying he's never seen anything so beautiful. He doesn't understand how she's married to that crying dwarf and why he suddenly falls to his knees. Hephaestus starts explaining that he's eating there only because he was expelled from home. She makes an angry face, saying it looks like he's completely right. The dwarf is shocked, and Hajin says he better apologize. She then calls Hajin by name and introduces herself as Aphrodite. She is truly the goddess of love, carrying such an immense amount of happiness. She apologizes, and Hajin says it's no problem at all. He's only there because he was hired. Hearing this, the dwarf asks if he can deliver something. He's unsure what to say, and Aphrodite says he seems to be an honest boy. Not motivated, he says they can count on him since he is the delivery boy of the gods. The dwarf liked this information a lot, but in reality, Hajin wants to deliver something for Aphrodite. Right. The dwarf then tells him to fetch some materials he needs for the forge. The location is right in his city, and what he's looking for is also the celestial metal. The next moment, he's already on his scooter, wondering if this is the right place. Once again in front of a gate, but this time for the Siren mines. Facing it, his heart races. He's in disbelief that he's entering another dungeon again. As soon as he saw the location, he went to check and found out it was the mines. He was thoughtful and told Hephaestus that he wouldn't be able to do it, explaining that the last time he entered a dungeon, he almost died. The dwarf asked why, and he said it was because he's not a hunter and can't fight. He only managed because he had a helmet that hid his presence, but now it's broken. Hephaestus said that if it's a broken helmet, just give it to him and he'll fix it. All excited, he got up and said that he's the god of blacksmiths and can fix any mythical treasure. Hajin got excited, and now he's back in the dungeon with the helmet. It's a repaired replica with a duration of 2 minutes and 2 uses. Once again, we go inside the gate, but upon entering there's a fair going on and he's confused. He knew this dungeon was popular, but this is ridiculous. He imagined the problem would be the monsters, but now he realized he would have to go deep into this place to find anything. Meanwhile, Doyam is there calmly eating. After driving for 30 minutes, he finally found an empty place. The only problem is that the terrain is terrible and his scooter is shaking all over. At least he's starting to see some minerals on the wall, but what he needs to find is the celestial metal, a piece of ore that shines in a red color. He keeps going, wondering how far he'll have to go. When he turns a corner, a giant skeleton passes by him. He gets scared but keeps accelerating, since he's still invisible. However, he crashes his scooter's body. A skeleton notices something but is confused because it can't see anything. The only bad thing is that his scooter is now wrecked. He stops for a second and smiles, thinking he has money to buy infinite ones. With that, he continues going deep into the cave, until, on top of a pile of rocks, he sees the celestial ore. He approaches, takes off his helmet, and smiles, saying he finally found it. The problem is how he's going to carry it out of there. He pulls from one side and kicks from the other, but gives up. What is he going to do now? But the system saves him and tells him to check the shop. Maybe there's something useful. As soon as he opens it, he sees a recommended item for 4,700 points. It's an explorer's pickaxe that can perfectly mine, but only once. But that damn thing, for the number of points, is costing 47 million. He remembers that at the entrance, you can borrow a pickaxe for 10,000. He leaves, saying he's not spending money here in a way. The problem is that looking at his scooter, it's clearly not in the best condition. Knowing that maybe when you make it back, the best thing to do is to take the risk. He already spent the 4,700 and threw it in his hand. Then he just needs to charge Hephaestus for it, and he strikes the ore with the pickaxe, hitting the ore right on top. It magically detaches from the rock, and the pickaxe disintegrates. The ore rolls down the mountain, and he runs after it like a fool. He lifts the thing off the ground, but it's incredibly heavy. After struggling, he manages to throw it on his scooter, thinking it would be much easier if he could go straight to Olympus. But that's when a stone ogre appears behind him. He's without the helmet and gets scared. The creature roars, shaking the entire cave. In another part of the cave, Doyam was fighting some skeletons. Hearing the roar, he wondered what it was. He felt something approaching from the darkness and prepared to fight whatever it was. It was Hajin, accelerating and telling him to get out of the way. Doyam recognized him as the same guy from Tartarus, but the protagonist just passed by, telling him to run if he valued his life. He couldn't even say anything and the guy was already gone. At that moment, he heard something behind him. Turning around, the ogre was heading in his direction. He ran desperately, saying he wanted a ride. The scene shifts to Hajin screaming that he almost died again. Hephaestus says he's very good at delivering quickly, but our boy is cursing, saying he should have warned him it was so dangerous. The dwarf looks confused, saying there's nothing in that place that puts life at risk. Our protagonist tries to explain that the rock was also gigantic. The dwarf seems confused and he says he'll fetch it. With that, he brings the red block. He tosses the massive rock on the ground and asks Hephaestus to take a look at this gigantic thing he requested. The dwarf is shocked and asks what kind of abomination that is. The two stare at each other. Hajin tells him to stop pretending because that is the celestial metal he was asking for. Hephaestus tries to explain that's not what he meant and lifts the stone, saying he's never heard of such a large and pure celestial metal. Hajin is confused by what he said. The dwarf tells him to wait and shows him something. He comes back with a small stone, saying that was the largest piece he had ever seen before this one. He tells the protagonist that he's more incredible than he thought and really deserves much more than what he's being paid. He tells Hajin to take a look. Hajin is shocked while the dwarf is all excited about his rock. He was supposed to be paid 20,000 points for the delivery, but he received an extra 30,000 points for the size of the stone. He's dizzy, having received $500,000. The dwarf explains that he had to pay more because it would be ridiculous to take just a piece and tell him to take the rest back. Hajin falls to the ground and thanks him from the bottom of his heart. The dwarf tells him to get up, but the boy says he can't. His legs want to express their gratitude. The news reports about the earthquake that happened in the Suri mines. Seongjin asks Doyen if he's really okay. He says yes, but warns that the mines will be closed for a while. Seongjin asks what happened, and he says there was a giant golem there. And that guy who was at the Tartarus gate appeared again. The strangest thing is that the golems seem to be chasing him. Hearing this, Seongjin starts thinking about recruiting the protagonist. Doyen says that if he wants, he can find him. He remembers the guy's bike and license plate, and also got the place's recordings. The leader thanks him, saying bringing someone like that to the guild would be very good. He's happy the guy wasn't hurt, and says that from now on, he'll handle these things. Radiant, Doyen thanks him and says he'll follow him to the end of the world, until Seongjin asks if he got any celestial metal. Then both go silent. Meanwhile, Hajin sees 75,000 points on the screen and grins like a fool. Now with $500,000, he can finally start thinking about a new house. The money he's earning is a lot even for a very good hunter. The only problem is that he knows he's surviving on luck. He starts wondering if maybe there's something useful in the shop. He opens the store looking for something. The problem as always is that everything is extremely useless and expensive. The cheapest weapon costs $1 million. Not to mention it's all replicas, so it probably won't last long. Maybe he should give up trying to defeat monsters. Until something catches his attention, a level 1 racing suit. It significantly enhances the user's physical abilities according to the suit's level, but it costs 50,000 points. He's angry that the system doesn't recommend these good things to him. The only problem is that he doesn't know how effective it is, and 50,000 points is quite expensive. He thinks about it and decides to buy it as an investment in his work. That way he'll be able to make more deliveries. He buys it, there's a flash of light, and the suit appears in front of him. Now there's no turning back. He's left with 25,000 points, but the boy is equipped. Wearing it, he finds it strange that although it's a bit uncomfortable, he feels like he's not wearing anything. Moreover, it doesn't seem to heat up. He decides to test it. Meanwhile, Doyen is desolate in the city. He was looking for the protagonist, but even with the license plate, he couldn't find his address. Since the guy didn't do anything illegal, there's nothing about him with the police. He's shouting alone, wondering how he'll find this bastard. At that moment, the protagonist stops and tells him the light is green. Doyen apologizes and steps aside, saying it seems everyone likes to use that same bike, but then something catches his attention. The scratches on the side are identical to the guy's, and it's the same damn license plate. He shouts for Hajin to stop, but he's already accelerated. He tries to run after him, but can't. Seeing a taxi behind him, he gets in and asks to follow that bike. But the driver kicks him out, asking if he thinks this is a movie. With that, the guy leaves, abandoning him. However, he doesn't give up, saying he'll keep following in that direction until the guy on the bike stops. After running quite a bit, he falls to the ground, exhausted. A woman even asks if he's okay, and he says he is. She says she recognizes him from one of the biggest guilds, and he says she must be confused. Someone from the guild would never be lying on the ground like this. He has no idea where that darn delivery guy went. Then a scream catches everyone's attention. He feels a chill and decides to slowly approach. He looks around but doesn't see the bike anywhere. However, his instincts tell him that guy is behind this. The elderly people tell him to be careful because the echo from the peak could cause an avalanche. He says not to worry because he belongs to a big guild, and starts running again. Once more, he's following the exhausted protagonist, wondering where he is, until he looks to the side and sees a rock with a hole in the middle. Seeing that, he says it's impossible for someone to have done this. Other rank B hunters could break this rock, but creating a perfect crater like this doesn't make sense. He's sure it's some kind of magic or divine power. If it's the guy on the bike, he has to bring him to the guild no matter what. Back at home, the sneaky Hajin is exhausted, unbelieving that he made that hole in the rock. Not to mention, for a few minutes he could run faster than his bike. Now he's happy and feels confident to enter any dungeon. His phone rings once more, but instead of a harp sound, it's the sound of a Chinese instrument. He sees that the location is in Buxiang. Realizing he's not going to Olympus and it's probably a dungeon, he searches on his phone about dungeons in Buxiang. And obviously, as he imagined, there's one called Mount Huago. It's a delivery without a time limit, so he's going to wait for his suit to recharge before doing it. What he didn't realize is that he was being followed. The blonde from the guild was keeping an eye on him. Seongjin already knew everything Daeun told him. He said that if they spread hunters throughout that region, they would definitely find him. Seongjin said it wasn't possible because they didn't have a picture of the guy, but Daeun told him to relax. He showed him a perfect sketch he made of the wanted guy on the bike. The leader asked if it was true that the guy seemed stronger than he appeared. Dame explained about the pierced rock he saw. It's not something a normal hunter can do. Now they're motivated to recruit the protagonist before the Black Dragon Guild can find him. Although the young one is currently at the top of the Korean guilds, the second largest guild, Black Dragon, has been growing a lot in recent years. However, they are the type of guild that commits any illegal activity to increase their influence. The leader says they can't lose someone so good to a guild like that, especially since they've been getting more and more suspicious lately. Daeyeon says he can trust him to recruit this guy. The next day, when Hajin arrives at the mountain, there are a lot of people at the entrance, but he saw online that this place wasn't popular. As he approaches, a guy tells him to stay there. Startled, he realizes the guy is actually talking to a little boy right behind him. He hears people talking about something related to the Black Dragon Guild. Our protagonist knows that's one of the guilds that likes to monopolize some gates. However, he goes in since it's none of his business. As soon as he enters the dungeon, he receives a message that he's near the delivery spot. He walks a bit more and the phone says he's right next to it, leaving the poor guy confused. Then he looks to the side and understands they want him to climb to the top of the mountain. Remembering the stone golem, he gets scared. But now he has his suits, so he's confident he can handle any creature. He takes off his helmet and is prepared. But someone calls for the delivery man. A face on the ground calls out to him. Hajin is startled. It's the head of a monkey talking to him. The monkey tells him not to be so scared. Hasn't he ever talked to a monkey before? He's a bit unsure of what to say and asks if the monkey ordered the delivery. The monkey says a kid with a winged hat told him that if he wished hard enough, someone would appear to complete the request. Our protagonist wonders if that child with the winged hat is behind all of this. The monkey then says there's something he wants Hajin to fetch, and the protagonist says to just ask. The monkey introduces himself as the beautiful monkey king or the victorious Buddha. However, people want to call him, some like to say he's the great Sun Wukong. Hajin immediately thinks of Goku and approaches, asking why the monkey is stuck down there. Sun Wukong says he was punished just because he stole some peaches from the Jade Emperor's tree. All he wanted was a bite, but as soon as he touched it, he was imprisoned under the mountain. Hajin says he understands and asks what he wants him to fetch. Wukong says it's nothing too much, just follow the direction behind him and he'll find a pile of trash. There's a hidden box he wants Hajin to bring back. Hajin thinks about this and sees it 6 miles away. Since it's not far, he says he'll be back soon and sets off. However, the little monkey smiles slyly. In the middle of the forest, some adventurers wonder if that is the boss of Mount Huago. Sitting on the ground is a gigantic golem. A girl approaches and tells them not to be afraid. Guys, this is the master of the Black Dragon Guild, and she's very dangerous, carrying a presence that might rival Aphrodite's. Her name is Jua Han. She knows the Yangwon Guild managed to advance the first floor of Tartarus. However, if they can defeat this 8-trigram boss, they might be able to claim the top guild spot. She orders everyone to attack, and the blonde behind her gives the order for the tanks to march forward. However, the guys are hesitating, saying that thing isn't moving, but something feels off. As soon as one steps, a crater opens and the creature begins to rise. The monster is large enough to cast a shadow over the entire team. A roar from the monster makes everyone in the guild tremble, saying they can't fight that thing. But the blonde warns that anyone who deserts the mission will be killed by the guild. The adventurers say it's impossible to defeat such a creature with these lousy weapons. But at that moment, a redhead shouts for everyone to get into combat stance. If they don't focus, they'll be crushed now. The group hesitates but agrees and approaches. The blonde asks the redhead if she thinks the plan will work. She doesn't seem too concerned, saying she doesn't know either. In the forest, Hajin was riding his scooter until an earthquake started. Even some monsters were running from the same direction. Seeing the smoke in the distance, he knew it wasn't good. But since his suit was still on cooldown, he felt confident and decided to check it out. The adventurers were getting battered. One stomp from the golem and they were gone. The rear team tried to give support, but those arrows did nothing to the monster. The redhead, realizing nothing was working, saw a mage beside the leader telling her to do something since he was there to register, not to fight. But Jua says if everyone survives, it will affect her guild's reputation. The guy is confused but gets punched in the face, knocking him out. She says they're only there to help her conquer the place. Since no one could hear anything due to the battle, they kept advancing. The redhead used a jumping ability to launch himself at the golem and landed a direct hit on its head. He shouted to everyone that he created an opening and for them to attack. With that, everyone started surrounding the monster. After much effort, it fell to the ground. The team celebrated, saying that finally the attacks were working. They all cheered, saying they would get out alive. However, the golem suddenly reawakened. Some gears heated up and it started to rise again. Johan seemed excited that the boss was entering phase 2. It now looked bigger and stronger. From the back, Hajin observed everything, wondering where's the like button on this video, my friends? If this video does well, I will bring part 2, so activate the cheeky little bell, and I'm out. Do you remember that the last chapter ended when Hajin was inside the dungeon where the monkey had asked him to retrieve a bunch of junk? As soon as he arrived, he liked the video. However, outside, Du Yunham mentioned that he was in Suwon City yesterday, and today he's heading to Bukshan. The poor guy is exhausted from searching for Hajin so much. At this rate, he'll traverse the entire province. When he reaches the entrance of Seonju Mountain, there's no one there, which confuses him. A chubby guy with glasses appears, calling for him. Du-yeon asks where this chubby guy came from, who tells him to watch his mouth and to say who he is. Du-yeon responds with his name and asks what the guy will do. Already sure that this guy isn't from the association, he probably thinks he's from the Black Dragons. He brushes past the guy, telling him to move aside. The chubby guy keeps insisting for him not to enter, but knowing he can't do anything, Du-yeon just goes in. But this makes it obvious to Du-yeon that if they're putting people there to block others, they're definitely there because of a boss. He starts running, saying he'll have to warn people because they've given up on this place. The true challenge of the 8 trigrams starts for real when the monster enters the second phase. It was at this moment that Hajin was arriving there. Seeing the giant monster with a laser in its belly, he realized that was the junk the monkey had mentioned. Even with the suit, he wasn't confident he'd defeat it. Trembling, he wondered what he wanted to do now. However, he noticed a dense redhead with some guys nearby. He immediately recognized them as members of the Black Dragon Guild. The guys trying to quit were being dragged back into the fight while begging to leave that place. But strangely, the blonde guy jumped with the mage onto the monster's chest. This left Hajin confused, wondering what the guy's plan was. The Black Dragon guy started throwing the adventurer into the flaming core. The adventurer begged, saying he would die at this rate. But the guy replied that it was his fault for quitting the mission. And with that, he let the guy go. However, Hajin punched him in the face, calling him a bastard. The Black Dragon leader, looking beautiful and confused, wondered who this guy was. How could someone take down a B-rank adventurer with a single punch? Our boy saved the adventurer like a prince, even cradling him. In his arms, the adventurer thanked him for the rescue, but said it was risky to stay there. Hajin glanced to the side. He was between the boss and the entire Black Dragon Guild. Looking at the monster, Hajin knew he could just take the box and run. Taking advantage of the distraction the others were causing the boss. But he couldn't do it. He told the guy not to worry, he just couldn't stand seeing someone die unjustly. The Black Dragon leader asked why everyone was standing still, while Hajin was certain it was all those damn people's fault. And now it turned into a mess. His suit still had 2 minutes and 17 seconds left, and he thought he had no choice but to go forward. The redhead was furious because she thought they were about to win. The bald guy asked if he should order the archers to attack, but she said no. She knew that before starting the battle, they needed enough wood. This is the key in defeating the 8 trigrams. In the middle of the transition from phase 1 to 2, the boss becomes immobile as he is now. At that moment, you just need to deliver some sacrifices to his chest and everything becomes easier. Then the bald guy said to take a look, and Hajin had just jumped, already higher than the boss. From above, something caught his attention. There seemed to be a crack in the head with a message to grab. He was sure that was the weak spot and went for a punch, which hit the big-headed guy dead on. The leader started trembling, wondering what that idiot was doing. At this rate, he would end up waking the boss. Because of this, she ordered everyone to stop him. She didn't care if he died or not, but wanted to somehow stop what he was doing. The people fired a bunch of arrows at the boss, and Hajin's suit had 1 minute and 31 seconds left. Punching the ogre's head, he asked for it to break soon. A window appeared saying danger had been detected, and his body seemed to dodge the arrows on its own. He was startled by this, wondering why those people were trying to kill him. The bald guy told the leader that the guy was strangely a dodge god. There were arrows even behind him that he was dodging without seeing, until one hit the ogre's eye. At that moment, the ogre trembled, and its eye glowed. The bald guy wondered if they would have to use everyone to stop that guy. Then he ordered the front line to charge. Hajin wondered when the boss would stop. It looked like the monster was wearing a wig of arrows, but then the ground beneath him began to tremble. The captain's fan fell to the ground as she knew they were now screwed. The creature's eye lit up, and now phase 2 was complete. Hajin started talking about how it was too hot up there, while the people below were trembling. The golem came to stomp on everyone, roaring. With one impact, the entire army was decimated. The bald guy asked the leader what they would do, but the master had no idea. She knew there was nothing more to be done there. Seeing the golem in front of her, she was sure everyone there would be turned to ashes. However, up above, Hajin hadn't stopped, delivering a series of punches to the monster's forehead. The master couldn't believe he was still alive up there. The problem was his suit only had 10 seconds left. He continued punching, and it went down to 8 seconds. At 5 seconds, he insisted, asking for it to break. 1 second remained. He delivered a punch, exploding the creature's head. When the smoke cleared, Do-yeon had just arrived and was in disbelief. Seeing the fallen boss, he wondered if the kid really had defeated it alone. In a way, Do-yeon felt a connection to Hajin because they seemed to have a similar fighting style. But he didn't imagine he would find that guy here. He ran toward Hajin, saying he needed to recruit him to the guild today. Down below, the Black Dragon Guild members hadn't died, and Jo-han couldn't believe that loser had defeated the 8 trigrams alone. The bald guy asked for orders, and she said to capture him as soon as the smoke cleared. She was sure that even though he was strong enough to defeat it, he would be exhausted now. and she couldn't let someone who complicated the Black Dragon's plans get away. But an explosion happened in front of them. It was Du Yun who greeted them. Immediately, the entire guild recognized him, and he said it seemed he was right to think they were behind all this, already understanding that their plan was to use the new recruits as sacrifices. Johan didn't expect him to show up there and ordered everyone to prepare for battle. She pointed in his direction and said he was now the target, and they better not let their guard down. Du Yun was worried since there were many people there, and now he wasn't sure if he could win. What he wanted to know was where Hajin was. Then another guild member came to talk to her, saying they had a problem. She asked what it was. He sheepishly said that the guy with the helmet had disappeared. The poor woman and Du Yun didn't know what had happened, and she screamed in desperation. Now he was screwed alone against everyone. He got involved in all this without meaning to. Hajin fled with the helmet since he thought he was going to die. He almost woke up in Olympus, and it wasn't because of a delivery. The poor guy wondered why he helped those people since he wasn't even a hunter, and he said he had to remember never to make such a mistake again. But then something caught his attention. In the distance, he saw the city in Seongju Mountain. He wondered if the dungeon was disappearing because he had just killed the boss. Dungeons form when gates aren't completed after a long time. And when that happens, anyone can enter and kill the boss. But it's extremely difficult. Usually only registered hunters from the association can do it. But this time, a guy registered as a delivery man was the one who resolved the dungeon. The poor guy was praying this wouldn't cause problems and wondering why he got involved in this. Then he remembered. Back with the monkey, he said it seemed the boy took longer than he thought. Hajin, crying, explained that the request was impossible. The monkey told him to stop stalling and explain what happened. Hajin cursed, explaining that he had said it was just a piece of junk. But when he got there, it was a giant ogre that shook the ground with every step. Not to mention it had a laser that almost burned him alive. Kong said that was impossible and asked if the 8 trigrams had gone crazy, noting that it was a peaceful creature that doesn't move until someone hits it. Then the protagonist realized that if it weren't for the Black Dragon, it would have been easy. Now he was motivated to wipe the floor with their heads. How could those bastards dare to interfere with his deliveries? The monkey then said he realized from what he said that he probably didn't get the box. But Hajin said he did. Wukong asked how he did it, and Hajin said he exploded the monster's head and brought the box to Wukong, asking what the deal was. The monkey chuckled and began to go crazy, saying he was incredible. Even though he had defeated that creature in the skies, the monster here on Earth could still destroy any human. He asked for the protagonist's name, who responded. The monkey then extended his hand, saying that today he met Hajin Lee. At that moment, something burst out of the box. An explosion happened, and something came flying out. When he opened his eyes, the monkey was holding the staff, saying he owed him one now. And if it weren't for the boy, he would have been trapped in that place for years. Hajin recognized it as the golden staff. Wukong whistled and a cloud appeared beneath him. He warned Hajin that he needed to escape before the Jade Emperor showed up. With that, he flew away, saying they would meet again someday. Hajin was desolate, saying he didn't mind the guy fleeing, but he wanted to get paid. But then a sack fell on his face. Wukong said he wasn't stingy, and the payment was already done. What was in that sack was just a bonus for his hard work. Hajin asked what it was, but the monkey was already gone. A golden glow was emanating from the sack. He opened it, wondering if it really was just a bonus. Sometime later at home, Hajin was watching the news. They were talking about various allegations against the Black Dragon Guild. He felt relieved to know those bastards were exposed for everything they did. The guy he saved gave a statement saying that no one went there knowing they'd have to face the boss. The reporter asked about the individual wearing a helmet who saved everyone. Smiling, he said the guy appeared just when he was about to be incinerated, and he single-handedly defeated the 8 trigrams. He was sure they wouldn't have made it out alive if it weren't for the boy. Hajin smiled, thinking that in the end, his effort wasn't wasted. He thought he had done something crazy when his body leaked forward out of nowhere, but everything turned out fine and his identity wasn't exposed. But the most important thing was that he got paid, and now he had 95,300 points. He earned 70,000 just from this delivery. But the greedy part of him felt he deserved even more because of that boss. But for him, it was fine. After all, if he exchanged it, it would be $700,000 for one delivery. He could buy a crazy apartment, and he also received a gift he never imagined he would get, a piece of hair from the great Wukong. If you place it in your palm and blow on it, you can summon a clone of the King Wukong himself. Hajin was excited looking at it because it would be a great help. Lately, he had been going through a lot. Unexpected creatures kept appearing. Even if it was just a clone, it was still the great Wukong. Look at this sick face he makes imitating a monkey. For him, it was basically an extra life. And at that moment, he received another delivery request. He put on his jacket, put on his helmet, and was ready for another one. Meanwhile, in a hospital, a guy was running down the corridor. It was the guild leader calling out for Du Yun. The guy seemed to have been beaten up by the guild and was in bad shape. Du Yun asked what the leader was doing there. He was supposed to be in Busan today. The leader said he had already taken care of it and couldn't stay away. After all, it was partly his fault that Du Yun was in this state. The boy responded that it wasn't the leader's fault. He misjudged the situation and got involved when he shouldn't have. He should have been more cautious with those Black Dragon bastards. Sung-jun was angry that those bastards had the nerve to attack someone from his guild. The right thing would have been to send Arenov along with Duyan, but he promised that next time he would take those guys down himself. Then he asked Duyan if he was feeling okay. Duyan revealed that the doctors told him things didn't look good. Sung-jun was shocked and asked if his days as a hunter were over. But the rascal was just joking and said the idiot was fooled. His arm just had a slight break, but soon he'd be 100%. He started laughing in the leader's face, asking if he believed he would retire just because of that. Sung-jun grabbed his cheek, saying that today was a good day for the kid to retire. But he responded that he would follow the leader until the end of time. Sometime later, the leader asked if it was true that the boy defeated the 8 trigrams alone. Duyan said he saw with his own eyes the guy exploding the monster's head with a punch. For him, as a martial artist, seeing the guy win without any weapons was inspiring. Duyan then asked if the team sent to find the boy had already succeeded. But Sung-jun said, unfortunately, no one found anything. They saw on some cameras that he entered an alley, but after that, he disappeared. In the sky, Hajin was sneezing, thinking it was too cold there. A while later, he was at Hephaestus' house, where it was too hot. He opened the door, greeting his friend, who didn't seem to notice, so focused was he. He sat down, thinking that for now, the best choice was to wait for the guy to finish the job. But now, in a warm room, he was getting a little sleepy. The heat of that place reminded him of something. It was as if he were back in his mother's arms. But Hephaestus woke him up, asking how the kid got there, giving him a big hug. He was startled and asked when that damn dwarf appeared. Hephaestus said it seemed the boy was very tired today, but the delivery he needed was quite far. Could the boy handle it? Hajin thought about it. After all, the rascal knew the farther he went, the more he got paid. And he said he was willing to walk halfway around the planet as long as they paid the right amount. Hephaestus smiled, saying it was always good to count on the boy. And he pulled out a staff, saying this was what he wanted to be delivered. Something he had built with the materials Hajin had brought, but the delivery date was for today. Hearing this, Hajin said he would have to start running right away. He observed the design and asked where the guy wanted him to take it. Hephaestus revealed it was to a pyramid. Hajin was shocked and said it would be easier to send it by plane. And besides, pyramids aren't part of Greek mythology. Winking, Hephaestus said he had clients outside Olympus. Hajin was annoyed but ran off, saying he would sort it out in a few hours. Suddenly, Hephaestus told him to wait because he forgot to mention something. The client he was delivering to was quite peculiar, so he had arranged for an assistant for Hajin. The boy was confused, wondering why he would need an assistant for a delivery. Suddenly, someone greeted him, saying they came under Cupid's orders, and introduced themselves as Lucio. Despite the name, Lucio was a woman, he thought. Our boy decided not to worry about that and sped up on his scooter. And the best part was discovering it wouldn't take long since Egypt was actually in the skies. And there, at least, there was no traffic. But suddenly, Lucio screamed, saying she had been tricked. She thought she had come here to help Hephaestus, not to ride on the back of some random human. She kept kicking Hajin in the head with her feet, and he was getting annoyed, thinking this mission wasn't going to be as easy as he thought. He said that for a small fairy, she was really annoying. She replied that she was actually quite large for a nymph. An hour ago, when she introduced herself, she said it was an honor to serve Hephaestus. Hajin didn't seem to want to take her, but Hephaestus knew the boy would need her. Our protagonist turned to the dwarf and asked if he really couldn't go alone. Lucio got angry, telling him to respect her, while Hephaestus explained that it wasn't that he didn't trust Hajin. It's just that he didn't know much about where they were going, whereas Lucio knew everything very well. That's why it would be great to have her around, since she would only help and not hinder even a bit. But back on the scooter, she was just picking her nose and saying she didn't want to help this kid. Wondering why she had to stay on a human scooter, she kept kicking his head, asking how much longer it would take to get there. Our boy ignored her, and she kept shouting, telling him to answer already. He then told her that if she stayed quiet, he would tell Hephaestus that she was perfect and didn't cause any trouble at all. But for Lucio, not being able to help would be a stain on her reputation. After all, she had studied her whole life, and her existence as a fairy was considered almost divine. She didn't want to accept that and was complaining to him, when suddenly a sweet fell into her mouth. She was startled and asked what he did. Hajin said she wouldn't shut up, so he gave her a sweet to keep her quiet. And if she stayed silent for the rest of the trip, he would give her more. For Lucio, who had never eaten a sweet, it tasted like divine angel food. She then told him he better not be lying, to which he said he always kept his word. Hajin thought the easiest way to handle a child was to give them candy, and now with her quiet, they only had 800 meters left to reach their destination. He enjoyed a few seconds of peace until he saw two eyes in the middle of a mist. He slowed down, but now they were both in the middle of a thick fog. Angry, he asked Lucio why she didn't warn him about this danger. She said it was his fault for giving her candy to keep her quiet. With that, he stopped the scooter and pulled her off, who was struggling, telling him to look. Behind them was a giant Sphinx. It informed them that to pass, they had to solve a riddle. Lucio explained that this Sphinx was dangerous because it devoured those who answered the riddle incorrectly. The Sphinx was a creature related to Siren, who nearly destroyed all of Olympus. Of course, it wasn't as strong as a legendary creature, but Hajin wasn't that strong either. Seeing the size of the creature, he knew his blows would be useless. Then suddenly, the phone rang and the rascal just hoped he would be well paid for this. He then walked towards it. Lucio asked what he was doing and Hajin said he was doing the obvious. He was going to solve the riddle. She tried to stop him, saying it was madness since he would die if he got it wrong. But Hajin was confident about what the Sphinx's question would be since the riddle was common. And in the worst case, he could use Wukong's hair strand. The Sphinx turned to him and asked if he was ready. Hajin told it to go ahead because he was short on time and was there to make a delivery. Meanwhile, Lucio was crying, saying the damned guy had actually accepted. The Sphinx smiled and told them to prepare. Hajin thought the riddle would be: what walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, and 3 in the evening? But this old one is very buff, saying he doesn't even need a cane. Obviously, Hajin was confident since he had seen this multiple times, but then the Sphinx asked what the name of the sound a duck makes when it falls was. Now he had a completely idiotic look on his face while the Sphinx stared at him. He asked what kind of duck nonsense this was. Lucio started thinking and was sure a duck makes a quack, but then she started crying, saying she had no idea what the word was for the sound they make when they get hurt. Being observed in a sphere, the last thing she wanted was to be eaten alive. The orb was watched by a woman in Egyptian clothes, who said those two seemed like very intriguing visitors. The Sphinx stared at them again, ordering them to answer the name of the sound that duck makes when it falls. Hajin had no idea. What kind of data joke was this? Then you remember he was up against a Sphinx. Maybe there was some kind of wordplay involved. Gleaming, the Sphinx said he had 3 minutes to answer. Meanwhile, Lucio, desperate, was crying, saying it was impossible to solve. Even she, an elite of knowledge, had no idea. And she was starting to get mad at Hajin because she was going to be eaten because of him. Remembering a time she spoke with her teacher and asked if Sphinx riddles were hard. He replied that she should know that before the first person answered the riddles, 100 people had been devoured. Lucio asked if that meant it was impossible to solve, and he answered that not even Jim got it right, and warned that if she ever encountered a Sphinx, she should run for her life. Now she was crying desperately, saying she knew things would go wrong, until Hajin turned around and said the name of the sound a duck makes when it falls is quack-sided, the mix of quack and accident. Obviously, Lucio froze and asked what the hell that was, what he was thinking, why he wasted their only chance with such an idiotic thing. But the Sphinx smiled and said he was correct. Angrily, she asked how that dumb answer was correct. While Hajin thought it was obvious it was a joke, it's always like this. The Sphinx praised him for answering the riddle and said he earned the right to Pa. Before she could finish, he told her to shut up, saying he solved this crap so she should get out of the way. The Sphinx stood there, not understanding why this guy was so aggressive, and he then told her to come up with a better riddle because that one was garbage. The poor Sphinx stood there crying. He turned around and asked if she was really crying. She said no, it was just that a bit of sand got in her eye. Lucio was still in disbelief that he got it right, when Hajin told her to hold on because he was going to speed up. A while later, they seemed to have entered the passage, and Lucio called out to him a little insecurely. He asked what it was, and she said she wanted to apologize for what she said earlier. She said she was there to help him, but in the end, she only belittled him for being human. She didn't deserve to call herself a mega elite. Hajin responded that she didn't need to be so hard on herself. Compared to the cruel words he heard in the past, this was nothing. To him, it was like the annoying chatter of a younger cousin, so he didn't mind. Lucio seemed a bit shy at that and thanked Hajin. A while later, they were in front of the pyramid. Impressed by its size, not even Lucio could see the top of it. Hajin looked around. According to the map, they were in the right place. Then she pointed out something written nearby. They approached a box with Egyptian inscriptions, and she explained it said to ring the doorbell. He was impressed that she could read hieroglyphs, and she said she was an elite after all. So he pressed the button, and everything started to shake. They both wondered what was happening, and she said it was gravitational magic. This confused them since they were just told to ring the doorbell. Suddenly, the ground opened up, and they started falling into a hole. A while later, he was lying on the ground, incredulous that he survived a fall from such a height. But he had crushed Lucio, who was almost losing her soul. He asked if she was dead, to which she angrily replied that, unfortunately, she wasn't. In the next scene, they were walking through the pyramid's corridors. Hajin thought this was more like exploring a dungeon than making the delivery. Then something caught Lucio's attention, and she told him to stop. He asked if there was a trap. She told him to point that shiny object at the wall so she could read what was there. Seeing the hieroglyphs, he asked what it said. And why did the painting depict an interaction between humans and a giant? Lucio seemed scared, and he asked if she had discovered something. She replied that she had heard of an evil goddess who liked to torment nymphs. She was sure these illustrations were from her ancestors to warn about the cruel attacks that happened there. But to Hajin, the drawings didn't seem violent. It looked more like some kind of festival in a field. But now she was motivated, saying she would seek vengeance for her ancestors because this was an unexpected chance. Hajin told her to keep quiet since the person there was their client. Then a mysterious leg appeared, asking what this talk of vengeance was about. They turned around as she asked why they had invaded a woman's home. Gleaming and all Cleopatra-like, she said the two were very rude. While shining brighter than 1,000 lights, she asked who among them was seeking vengeance. Hajin couldn't see anything, obviously, but Lucio, determined, flew towards her, saying she was avenging her ancestors. The protagonist told her to calm down and asked what she was thinking. Meanwhile, the Egyptian woman smiled, asking if she was a nymph, saying it had been a long time since she had seen one, and then gave her a hug, saying she was a very cute girl. While being embraced, she told the enemy to let go of her. Hajin stood there, not understanding what the heck was going on. A while later, the woman explained that a long time ago, there were festivals for the nymphs there, and the younger ones were always so cute. It was just a pity they were no longer with her. Hajin said he understood how they all died. It seemed she had hugged them all to death, and Lucio was suffering there. The woman let her go, saying she couldn't help it when she saw something so adorable, while Lucio cried, saying she almost died. She asked Hajin why he didn't help her, and he told her to relax. They started arguing, with her saying he had said it was like having a cousin. So how could anyone let family die? The woman interrupted them, saying she would introduce herself. She was the one who ruled the two brightest lands. She was the divine reincarnation of the all-powerful Horus, a pharaoh. But the two didn't care about what she was saying and kept arguing. While they fought, Hajin asked what this pharaoh business was about. Wasn't it usually the king of Egypt? Lucio replied that he didn't understand anything, and there were two types of gods. Those who were like Cupid or Hephaestus, born as deities, and those who achieved divine status like the old lady in front of them. The pharaoh asked why she was being called old, and Hajin said he wanted to talk to her because he came to deliver something. She said she knew very well since she had been watching his entire journey. At that moment, the package began to move and flew into her hand. Observing the item, she said it was of high quality. It was truly made by a good craftsman, and the design was perfect. She then said that the delivery man Hajin truly lived up to his reputation. Now the poor guy was confused, wondering since when he had a reputation. But with the delivery done, he thanked her, saying if she wanted to give a bonus, she could just send it to his account. Lucio said it was shameful to work with someone so greedy, and asked if he had no personal respect. Hajin responded that respect doesn't put food on the table. It was with that money she didn't want that he bought the candy she liked. She got excited and said to make sure a good deposit was made to the account. The pharaoh said their friendship was amazing and assured them not to worry about payment. In the end, she was a generous goddess. He then received 50,000 for the delivery and another 50,000 as a bonus. Currently, he had 195,000 points. The rascal now had a total of $19 million. Lucio said she helped, so he better give her some candy. He told her not to worry, she would get a whole store. She got excited, saying she would take 90% of the profit, leaving him a bit embarrassed. The woman advised them not to use that tunnel next time and to use the main entrance. Although she had good memories of that place, it didn't make sense to receive deliveries in the basement. Lucio mentioned the inscription said to ring the doorbell if there were no guards. The pharaoh explained there hadn't been guards there for years and they should have just knocked on the front door. In other words, they should have ignored the entry button and taken the stairs. But with that, the delivery was complete and he was back at Hephaestus' house. Exhausted, but at least he made it back in one piece. He told Lucio to wake up as she was drooling on his hand. "What's this, my child?" She woke up, asking if they were back already, and he said yes. That's when she realized they were already in front of Hephaestus' house. She then called over the radio and thanked him for the day, saying it was fun. He asked why she changed all of a sudden. Then he remembered that now the delivery was complete. It was time to say goodbye. Gleaming, he said it was great having her around even though she talked too much. She told him to shut up and stop ruining the perfect moment, and he said he was just telling the truth. Entering the shop, however, both said to each other that they never wanted to work together again. But Hajin didn't expect them to get along so well. At that moment, Hephaestus appeared, saying the client had praised them a lot, so he was thinking if they could work together from now on. The two stared at each other, considering the idea. And then they bumped heads, saying they would only do it if everyone liked the video. And do you all remember that last chapter ended right when he and Lucio were smashing against each other, saying they didn't want to work together? Next scene, our boy is peacefully sleeping in his room when someone calls his name. When he wakes up, it's Lucio shaking him, telling him to get up already. He immediately wakes up with a scream, wanting to know what she's doing there, but she just covers her ears, asking why he's yelling at poor Lucio. And then she asks if he really forgot that they're partners now. That's when he remembers that when he refused, Hephaestus started crying, saying it was the first time he had ever asked a favor from his own child. Because of that, he ended up accepting. The problem is that he didn't just become her partner, now he has to live with this headache. He then asks why she woke him up like that and if he wasn't sleeping peacefully. Lucio then says the noises weren't stopping. He's confused until he looks at his phone and sees that it's a delivery from Manjak. What Manjak is, he doesn't know, but he does know that a ton of orders are coming in one after the other. That's when he takes a look and realizes what's happening. A bunch of normal delivery orders are coming in to deliver Chinese food all over the city. The poor guy who was making millions before is now getting paid $5, $10. That's when he remembers that it's been a week since all this madness started, when that woman had her last delivery while sitting on the toilet. Lucio asks what's wrong and if everything's okay, but he just tells her not to worry. But she's annoyingly persistent and grabs his shirt, demanding that he explain it properly because she wants to understand. However, the poor guy gets a phone call right at that moment. He gets nervous when he sees that it's his manager's number, but if it were me, I'd just pick up and tell the guy to go to hell. As soon as he answers, the guy starts chewing him out, asking if he's not seeing all the orders coming in and if he's just slacking off. That's when we find out that Mandrak is the name of the delivery company he worked for. And the boss says he was already being generous by lifting his suspension after a week. But even so, it looks like the bastard still hasn't learned his lesson. He needs to start working immediately or he's getting fired. But Hajin just flips the switch to Saiyan mode and tells him to go ahead and fire him. He doesn't care anymore. The boss asks if he's lost his mind, but the kid keeps up his Dragon Ball aura, asking what he's going to do about it. Lucio even pulls out a power level meter, saying the bastard's already surpassing 40,000, and suddenly, the meter shatters. The boss asks if he really thinks he'll find a job anywhere else. If he gets blacklisted, he's done for. Hajin just says he doesn't care anymore. This attitude is exactly why the boss is already going bald. The guy tries to say something else, but our boy hangs up on him. The loser is left there crying, complaining that the bastard had to mention his baldness. Lucio then asks if he's really okay. He turns to her with a smile and says he's fine. It's time for them to go get something to eat. Meanwhile, over at the guild building, Seongjun is worried because no one has been able to find that damn guy. The red-haired one, Suojang, says they checked every street he told them to, but no one matching the description was there. His guess is that the person already knows they're being hunted and is purposely hiding. Seongjun just thanks him, saying he understands. He already has enough problems, and now this mysterious guy is starting to give him a headache too. The guy asks if they should keep looking, but he says no. It's not worth wasting people on this anymore. He then asks about the situation in Busan, and the guy says things aren't looking good there either. The team of 6 rank hunters that was sent over came back without closing the gate. So in 5 days, that place will turn into a full-fledged dungeon. Seongjun just nods and says he understands. A month ago, a portal materialized in the Hongda building. When the association asked them to take care of it, he already figured it wouldn't be easy. But he never imagined 6 rank hunters wouldn't be able to handle it. However, suddenly he smiles, saying that actually, this is going to be perfect. He then tells Suho to inform the rest of the team that they're getting ready to move out. As he looks outside, he says that once again, he'll have to show everyone why his guild is considered the best in this country. Meanwhile, with Hwajun, he's there eating a spicy cup of instant noodles, saying it's delicious. It would have been perfect if he could have just seen the manager's face when he called him bald and hung up. Lucio, sitting across from him, says they have a serious problem. She's never eaten anything this good before, and now she wants a lot more. He tells her not to get her clothes dirty, but she's just going on about how this soft, spicy stuff is really amazing. The human world has way better food. Damn, the guy thinks she really hasn't enjoyed life much, has she? Then he tells her it's just a cup of noodles. Even the people sitting nearby comment that their lives must be really rough if she's never had instant noodles before. Given the girl's age and the guy's face, people must think he's a single dad who had a kid way too early and is now stuck in this situation. Our boy didn't expect that this is how society sees him now. Sometime later, outside, Lucio is full and he wipes her face, telling her he told her not to eat that much. Yeah, and that's when he realizes this situation is looking more like he suddenly got a daughter than a mission partner. He starts hearing people around saying how sad it is to see such a young guy already raising a daughter alone. Clearly, this apartment isn't enough for him. Our boy realizes the entire neighborhood is now judging him. But if Lucio is really going to be living around him every day, maybe he does need a bigger place. He wonders if moving might be a good idea, and she seems excited, saying it'd be great to live somewhere bigger than that tiny fish tank of his. She says that if they're moving, it should at least be that huge castle. Obviously, she's pointing at a massive, ultra-luxurious building. He squishes her cheeks, telling her she has no idea how much an apartment like that costs. With puffed-up cheeks, she wants to know what happened to the money he earned from the pyramid. That's when he remembers that considering the number of points he actually has over $1 million, so it's not impossible. Maybe it really is time for him to get his own place. Lucio is already excited, saying the place is gigantic. Wait a second, is our little delivery boy actually getting a luxury apartment? On top of that, it was built recently, so it's super fancy even by today's standards. He asks the guy for details, who tells him they'd be able to move in at the earliest in 2 weeks. The guy is trying to explain everything, but Hajin just says it's fine, he likes it because it looks good. Still, he wants to check out some other places. Because come on, it doesn't make sense to buy the first one you see. He then calls for Lucio, saying they're going to look at more places, but she asks why they don't just stay there. He just picks her up and says he hasn't decided yet, so they're leaving. That's when he glances to the side and thinks he recognizes a girl. Is it just me, or is this the first woman we've seen aside from the hunters? A little later, Lucio is once again stuffing her face with instant noodles, saying it's delicious. She looks at our boy and asks why he isn't eating anything. He's just drooling over the papers, mumbling about how he bought a house after just 1 day of searching. Now that's true luxury. After that conversation with the guy, they checked out a few more places, but in the end, he went with the first one. Since it was newly built, he even got a decent price. But the only thing stuck in his head now is that girl he saw when he left the apartment. Forget what I said. He just remembered he saw her at the Tartarus gate, meaning she's a hunter too. He figures that since the helmet was covering half his face, at least she didn't recognize him. But there's something more important right now. Why aren't any more delivery orders coming in? Lucio says they did one recently, but he points out that was 2 days ago. She says 2 days isn't that long, but our boy is used to doing at least one delivery a day. She tells him to stop expecting things to always be that way. Greed never leads to anything good. Besides, he should have made plenty of money. Hajin admits that yeah, he did, until yesterday. Before buying the place, he had about $19 million to spend, but just the down payment for this apartment was $12 million. If he starts calculating the installments plus furniture and living expenses for both of them, he realizes he spent way too much money. Lucio is shocked, saying that with the money he got from the Pharaoh, he could have bought a castle in the divine realm. He just replies that he can't help it. Real estate in Central Korea is really that expensive. She wants to know what they're going to do, and he says that when you don't have money, you save. So no sweets for her for a while. Her expression immediately changes, and she says she'll have to think of something, given how serious the situation is. Then she gets an idea and asks why he doesn't start doing door-to-door advertising. There's no rule against them looking for work themselves. They could go directly to Hephaestus and ask which gods he thinks might need their services. He messes up her hair, saying that damn, she's actually smart. The problem is, how are the two of them supposed to get to Olympus? She says that since he always goes, it should be fine, but our boy explains that when he accepts a delivery, he gets teleported instantly. Poor thing, she looks completely disappointed. The scene then shifts to a helicopter, where teams 1 and 2 of the Yangwon Guild are arriving. A total of 45 hunters had been summoned. The number 2 of the guild, Aaron Barrick, our boy's neighbor, was there. Obviously, Seongjin was there too. He then tells everyone to remember that today they're heading toward the recently appeared gate. It's time to leave all past failures behind and once again show the glory of their guild. Everyone raises their fists, cheering with excitement. Then he calls for Arin, and the helicopter takes off. Inside the cabin, he asks if it's true that she believes the motorcycle guy moved in next door to her. Man, the girl has a photographic memory and says yes. She's not entirely sure, but it seems to be the case. The poor guild leader is devastated after spending $1 billion resources searching for the bastard. He just moved in next to her. He asks if she's absolutely sure, and she says yes. Damn, this girl's a genius. At least now, Team 1 knows it'll be easy to find the guy. So the focus now is to take care of this gate. Meanwhile, Arin is thinking that this must be the person who soloed the 8 trigrams. Is she seriously excited to fight him one day? Come on, girl, I want romance. Not this crazy battle obsession. Back at Hephaestus' forge, our boy arrives. But unfortunately, this time it looks like he didn't come for work. The lights are even turned off. Lucio is freaking out, saying they should leave before they get punished for trespassing without permission. Our boy says there's no need for that, especially since she's the one who taught him how to get here. Still, Lucio insists, saying they're being extremely disrespectful by barging into someone's home when they're not even there. He realizes she's being a total hypocrite since she's the one who called the forge an old hag, which is way more disrespectful. That's when someone steps on his back and demands to know who dares to trespass on his property this early in the morning. Obviously, it's just Hephaestus, and our boy greets him. The god immediately comments that he doesn't remember requesting any delivery, so why is he here? Our boy, all cute, too cute for my taste, says he's here to ask for a little favor. The dwarf wants to know what it is, and our boy says that before that, he thought it'd be rude to come empty-handed, so he brought something impressive. The god asks what it is, and our boy proudly presents a fresh bottle of soju. He remembers how much Hephaestus liked the beer he brought last time, so now he brought something new to try. The god pretends not to care, but immediately tells him to just ask the favor. He'll help. Hajin then asks if he knows any god or goddess who might be interested in a delivery service. The little dwarf thinks for a bit and says some names come to mind, but there are some details. The deliveries he knows of are extremely dangerous. But Hajin is fired up and says no matter the job, he'll get it done. To him, nothing in this life is more dangerous than being broke. Hephaestus then says that since the kid thinks he's ready, he'll teleport him now. With a flash of blue light, Hajin tries to ask which god it is, but it's too late. He's already been sent away. In the blink of an eye, he appears in a dense forest, completely lost. How is he supposed to do the job when the old man didn't give him a single detail? That's when the system suddenly alerts him. Danger detected. As soon as Hajin turns to the side, he sees a glowing red eye staring at him. A massive, 3-eyed demon boar is charging straight at him. Hajin braces himself, knowing there's no way in hell he can dodge in time. Until someone hidden in the bushes releases an arrow, hitting the creature square in the head, making it crash to the ground. Our boy turns around, asking what just happened and if that thing is really dead. That's when a familiar blue glow pops out of the bushes, all happy, saying, "Woo, that was close. Almost turned you into a human carpet." He's shocked. He didn't even know she came along. Lucia responds that the moment he disappeared, she teleported right after him. It was a close call, but she's impressed that he took down such a beast, one of the most feared creatures in this place. That's when Hajin, still shaking, says he wasn't the one who killed it. Then someone behind them says, "That would be me." He hadn't realized there were other creatures in this area besides the wild boar. Man, I don't know why this old guy is showing off his shiny abs. but Hajin, just like us, finds this dude weird. And the guy comments on seeing a human and a nymph in this place. Our boy is just staring because the top half is human, but the lower half is all horse. That's when his phone pings with a notification confirming he's arrived at his destination. Whoever this crazy old dude is, he's today's client. The old man then says that very few people ever reach this place and asks who they are. Lucio, the moment she sees that it's a centaur with a limping leg, calls our boy over and says she thinks she knows who he is. There was Jason, leader of the Argonauts. Achilles, the hero of the Trojan War. And the greatest warrior of all, the one who led Olympus to victory against the giants Hercules. All three of them were trained by him. He is Chiron, mentor of the greatest heroes. The guy immediately pulls out his bow, aiming at them, asking if she really just had the audacity to say Hercules' name in front of him. He already has an arrow locked in, asking if they have any idea how much suffering that idea put him through. Hajin tries to explain that they're not here because of Hercules. They were sent by Hephaestus. That seems to calm Chiron down for a moment, until suddenly he fires a barrage of arrows at them, yelling that they must think he's some kind of fool. Luckily, our boy's enchanted gear helps him dodge, but the entire forest gets shredded. Sometime later, inside Chiron's house, they're sitting on the floor and he finally explains how they ended up there. Chiron finds it interesting. He knows Hephaestus wouldn't casually mention his name to just anyone. The problem is that no matter how he looks at this kid, nothing about him screams hero. But on the other hand, he's traveling with a nymph. Even the most celebrated heroes rarely had an ally like that. Meanwhile, Hajin is asking Lucio why this guy won't believe them when they've already explained everything. To which she responds that she has no idea. She heard that this man was supposed to be kind-hearted. That's when Chiron makes his decision. He's going to believe them. They celebrate, relieved. Then he asks if it's true that they can retrieve anything. Our boy says almost anything, and with that, Chiron decides to give him a chance. He grabs an empty container and says that if he heads north, he'll find a massive lake. He's supposed to go there and collect some saliva from the fool that resides in that area. Our boy takes the jar but gets a little freaked out by the word saliva. Wait, does this guy seriously want him to fill this thing with spit from something? Chiron says that's exactly what he wants and asks if the boy has a problem with that. Hajin thinks this is kind of a weird invasion of privacy but shrugs it off, saying they'll get it done quickly. Of course, he's not about to miss a chance to make some cash. Chiron watches, thinking the kid is an idiot for heading to that place without worrying about the dangers lurking there. At the same time, though, it's the perfect way to see if he's trustworthy. If he manages to complete this task, then the next mission will be the Frozen Mountain, an impossible challenge for humans. But he's confident the kid won't even make it to the cave. That's when Hajin activates his suit and launches into the sky. Chiron just stands there, looking like a fool as our boy flies away with Lucio in his arms. After using the suit so much he's already getting used to its effects, he can now maintain his speed and reach the cave in one go. The ascent is fast, and in just a few seconds, he's already standing right in front of the cave. He deactivates the suit, leaving 32 seconds of flight time saved. Lucio, on the other hand, is completely dizzy and about to throw up. As they step inside, Hajin says that now that they're here, it's time to collect that saliva. The problem? They walk and walk, but there's nothing in sight. He notices that Lucio is sweating cold, and he starts getting worried. Lucio, all wobbly, insists that she's a high-ranking elite warrior and that she'd never be afraid of anything. But suddenly, they hear the sound of a single drop of liquid falling. Lucio screams in terror. Hajin tells her to calm down. It's just a drop. It's not like they're going to run into a monster right at this moment. And that's exactly when he senses something move nearby. He turns his head and sees a massive 36-headed serpent, most likely the legendary Hydra. Good news, finding the source of saliva won't be hard. Bad news, that thing is strong as hell. Back at Chiron's house, he wonders where the hell that kid went. He thought he was just some random mortal who could have guessed he had those kinds of abilities. But even with that trick, there's no way he could have scaled the mountain this fast. That's when he notices the crater left behind from where the boy launched himself. He activates a skill, confirming that the kid actually made it to the cave. He prepares to leap there himself, but his injured leg holds him back. Still, he manages to jump, saying it'd be crazy if the boy actually went inside. After all, that cave is home to an immortal monster. Meanwhile, Hajin is smiling graciously. Or, well, not really. He knows his chances of dying are ridiculously high. A second later, he's sprinting for his life with Lucio in his arms, cursing Chiron for setting them up. Sometime later, the Hydra is scanning the area looking for him. He's hiding behind a rock, whispering that they just need to wait until it falls asleep. But Lucio is shaking and says she knows all about this terrifying serpent. The creature standing before them is a Hydra. She asks why the hell he took this request from Chiron. He says it's not his fault, as if he would have accepted if he knew this was the monster. That damn centaur tricked him with the way he worded it. If only he had his helmet, you have a chance. But right now, he's completely trapped. That's when a notification window pops up. In case of emergencies, you may use the teleport service. It's not a teleport for himself. Instead, he can spend 5,000 points to transport items from the shop to his current location. The problem? 5,000 coins cost $35,000. He bought that helmet replica for just 800 points. This is daylight robbery. But he doesn't have much of a choice. His life is worth more than that. So he grits his teeth and spends the 5,000 coins. The helmet materializes in his hand. Lucio is stunned, asking how it just appeared out of nowhere. Hajin sighs and says, "What disappeared was my damn money." He puts on the cursed helmet and says, "All right, Hydra, open wide." He starts walking straight toward it. Lucio freaks out, asking if he's lost his mind. She warns him that the exit is in the opposite direction. He says he knows that, but he's going to handle this. Lucio panics and tells him that thing is no baby. It's a true monster. The Hydra is the child of a god, and its venom is so deadly that even the gods of Olympus fear it. Our boy says that this so-called Typhon, who is her father, must have really gone on some wild adventures to have such an ugly daughter. She tells him to stop with the jokes and warns that the Hydra is on a completely different level from the Sphinx. But he tells her to relax and wait for him at the entrance, assuring her that everything will be fine. Lucio gets mad and storms off, saying she hopes the Hydra's venom burns his skin off completely. The poor guy is left there thinking she really didn't have to go that hard with the curse. But now it's time to deal with this creature. With the effect activated, he starts walking toward it. It seemed to be asleep, even with its eyes open, as venom dripped from its mouth. With that, he opens the container and moves to collect it. When he sees the venom touch the ground and melt everything away, he realizes that anything would be destroyed by it. He has no idea why Chiron wants something like this, but this amount should be enough. Considering the giant monster right in front of him, he better be paid well for this. That's when suddenly, the entire cave starts shaking. The ceiling looks like it's about to collapse, and he has no idea what's happening. An earthquake is shaking the entire cave, and the worst part? He dropped the container. Yeah, now he's screwed. His hand is literally on the Hydra's eye, and he's wondering how the hell he's supposed to steal saliva now. The monster seems to be staring right at him, and he lets out a scream. But actually, it was a mental scream. He didn't say anything out loud. With that, he covers his mouth, telling himself to stay calm as long as he's wearing the helmet. There's no reason to panic. That's when someone asks what's going on. A voice says that it smells the decaying flesh of spirits from the underworld. It's a scent it hasn't smelled in a long time, and it wants to know if the boy was sent by Tartarus. Hajin immediately realizes that he was located by scent. The voice tells him not to be afraid, saying it knows he's wearing Hades' helmet, which hides his presence. Our boy sees that there's no point in pretending anymore. And then the voice asks why he came to find her. Sweating cold, Hajin knows there's no way in hell he can say he came here to steal saliva. The snakes keep asking why he's there, and one of the larger heads says it looks like he was sent by Hades. They start arguing among themselves, and then the voice demands to know why the boy isn't saying anything. It better not be that he came all this way just to wake her up for no reason. That's when our boy improvises and says that he's just here to check on her. He removes the helmet and says he came from Tartarus to see how she's doing. The girl seems surprised by this. She then says that it looks like Cerberus must have sent him. Hajin quickly agrees, saying, "Yep, exactly, that's the one." All awkward, he stammers that Cerberus wanted to say he hasn't seen her in a while and was wondering how she was doing. The Hydra replies that she never imagined that bastard would actually care about his older sister. After over 1,000 years of not speaking, she never thought this day would come. That's when Hajin freezes. Guys, the Hydra is a highly dangerous creature with some serious attributes. Stay alert. Meanwhile, outside, Lucio is fuming, crying from frustration. No matter what Hajin does, there's no way he can win against the Hydra, so she has to go down the mountain and call for help. That's when on her way down, she runs into Chiron, who wants to know why she's alone. She immediately tells him that Hajin is facing the Hydra. Chiron face-bombs, saying he never imagined the boy would go all the way into the cave. She asks for help, but he says that even he, a divine being, has no chance against that thing. She demands to know what they're going to do, while Chiron is just thinking to himself that he should have sent the kid home instead of trying to test him. He lets out a sigh and asks her to show him the way. She asks if he's sure, and he replies that there's no way in hell he's letting the boy die because of him. Meanwhile, in the cave, Hajin is in shock. He never imagined that the Hydra had a human form. The Hydra replies that it looks like he was startled by her appearance. She explains that she hasn't been able to take her true form since she was trapped there. Not even her brother has ever seen her like this, so it's normal for him to be surprised. Hajin is sure that when she says brother, she's referring to Cerberus. Glowing softly, the Hydra asks him to tell her how her little brother is doing because she really misses him. He simply says that her brother is doing great. He gets to eat 3 meals a day, is working hard, and is happy with his progress. Of course, he's not about to reveal that Cerberus is now Persephone's pet. The Hydra smiles and says she's relieved to hear that. Hajin quickly waves goodbye, saying that now that his job is done, he's leaving. But just as he turns to leave, she tells him to stop, and he immediately freezes. She then says that if he came all this way because of her little brother, he can't leave empty-handed. Hajin's body won't move. He turns back all stiff, saying there's really no need for that. But she's already flicking her tongue dangerously, insisting. Then she turns around and tells him to take something. She tells him to take the differently colored scale on her back. Our boy is hesitant, not sure why she wants him to have it. But she simply tells him not to worry, saying that her scales hold magical power that will aid him on his journey. He figures it's probably similar to the strands of hair Wukong gave him. At this point, he's already convinced, thinking to himself that there's no way he's turning down something like this. Staring at her, though he's afraid he'll be turned to stone. To ensure his safety, he activates the suit for a second and yanks the scale off her back. The problem is that the suit isn't great for short movements, and he ends up crashing to the ground. He's grinning with the crystal in his hands, but clearly the Hydra is not amused. She congratulates him, says she thinks the boy is pushing his luck, but since that's the case, she won't turn him down. Damn, she just challenged him to a fight. Our boy scrambles up, all awkward, saying it was an accident. Meanwhile, Chiron is shaking, trying to comprehend what just happened. He shouts, asking if the boy defeated the Hydra. From the centaur's point of view, our boy is radiating an aura while the Hydra is lying on the ground, completely wiped out. Lucio is beating from Chiron's back, hugging Hajin, saying she's so happy he's alive. He glares at her and says he told her to stay outside because it was dangerous, but she pouts and says she was scared. While they're bickering, Chiron still can't believe that a human defeated the Hydra, something even Hercules struggled with. Hephaestus had really sent someone remarkable. Hajin then turns to the Hydra and apologizes, saying they're being loud. She says it's fine and asks if the nymph belongs to him. He immediately denies it, saying she's more like the kid from the neighborhood. The Hydra smiles, saying their relationship is quite interesting. She then turns to Chiron and says it's been a long time since they last saw each other. He really had aged a lot, and not even his immortal body could win against time. Or perhaps it was her venom finally wearing him down. Hajin is confused and wonders if something happened between them. Lucio giggles and says he really doesn't know anything. Their story is well known. It involved Hercules, an arrow coated in Hydra venom, and the end of Chiron's immortality. But that was all an accident. On the battlefield, countless centaurs lay dead on the ground. One of them was Chiron, an arrow lodged in his leg. Maybe it wasn't an accident. Maybe it was karma. The price he paid for raising the monster that was Hercules. At Olympus, standing before a throne, someone called him Chiron the Wise, and asked if he truly wanted his immortality removed. Kneeling, Chiron said yes. He begged Zeus to remove it. He could no longer bear the pain. Zeus paused for a moment, then said, "Very well." As a token of gratitude for training so many heroes, he would receive an astrological sign. Chiron wanted to know what that meant, but Zeus simply said, "You will not die. One day, you will understand." The centaur tried to argue, but it was already too late. That was the day his life as Chiron the Wise ended, and he ascended to divinity, becoming the commander of Sagittarius. From that day forward, he became Chiron the Mythic. Back in the cave, the Hydra says that her venom is a death sentence for any creature. That's why she's so impressed that he's still alive. He must be using every bit of his mythical power just to stay standing. Poor Chiron is clearly struggling and says that her tongue is still as sharp as ever. Maybe he should cut it off. The Hydra smirks and says his mouth is dirtier now. As far as she remembered, he used to be a gentle soul. She then turns to Hajin and asks if his name is Hajin. He nods. He's organizing two very important things, and a light flashes, blinding him for a second. Then the Hydra raises a small vial and says she knows he came here for her saliva. Chiron asked him to retrieve it. Our boy asks if she knew from the beginning. She laughs, saying, of course, because he reeked of Chiron. She then turns to Chiron and tells him to come take it. But Chiron hesitates and asks what she wants in return, because he knows she wouldn't just give it away for free. The Hydra sighs and says that everyone always treats her like some terrible villain, but she reminds him that she never poisoned him. That was Hercules. Hajin, completely overwhelmed, realizes that this completely rewrites the mythology. After explaining the real story, he's still shocked. The Hydra then holds out the vial and says she's been waiting for this moment, for him to finally come collect it. Chiron hesitates for a second, then takes it from her hand. He uncaps the vial and drinks it immediately. Holy hell, I don't know if that was an antidote or not, because his whole body starts burning. The venom seems to be spreading even faster through his leg. His vision blurs and he collapses. Seeing this, Hajin freaks out and asks what the Hydra did. That's when he hears a laugh. Chiron is on the ground crying in joy, saying that his leg is finally normal again. For 3,890 years, he had endured that pain in the world of mythical creatures. He had long forgotten what it was like to live without agony. The Hydra, all gentle now, pats him and says she can only imagine how painful it must have been to live that way. Hajin and Lucio rush over, calling out to him. Sometime later, at Chiron's house, they're sitting around wondering why he's taking so long. Maybe the old bastard doesn't want to pay them for their hard work. Lucio, though, tells him to stop accusing an honest person like Chiron. Hajin deflates. He probably doesn't even deserve to get paid, since it was the Hydra herself who handed over the saliva. The poor guy sits there feeling like a complete fool, realizing he has no argument. That's when Chiron opens the door and apologizes for making them wait. It took way longer than he expected to find what he was looking for. Our boy was about to call him out for taking so long, but Lucio covers his mouth and says they were waiting patiently. She asks if he was looking for his bow, and he confirms. This bow was originally meant to be given to Hercules. However, he believes it's more suited for Hajin. Our boy, being a complete idiot, is annoyed, saying he would prefer to get some points, but he's sure Chiron is a bad negotiator. Thinking it's just some random item, he accepts it anyway. But right at that moment, the door swings open. They both ask who's there, and a man walks into the room, apologizing for barging in like this. Lucio seems to recognize him, and damn, the guy is holding a sword, dripping in pure swag. This is Ares, the god of war. Hajin, still clueless, mutters that he only knows this guy is Olympus' biggest troublemaker. Lucio warns him to be careful because Ares is currently the prince among gods. Being the son of Zeus and Hera, he's the son of a king and a divine queen. Ares comments that it's strange to see a mortal with a nymph. He asks if he's Hajin Lee. Our boy confirms, and suddenly Ares lunges forward, saying he's finally found him. Hajin doesn't stand a chance, but then Ares collapses to the ground, begging for help. Our boy is completely lost. At 27 years old, Hajin Lee became the first human to make a god meal. Sometime later on a train, Lucio comments that this weird car is super fast. He tells her that it's not a car and tells her to keep her voice down because there are other passengers. Our boy is exhausted because he just finished one job and is already on another. That's when a notification pops up on his phone minus 100,000 coins from Siren plus a 100,000 bonus. Hajin's fatigue vanishes instantly until the guy sitting behind them tells them to stop yelling. Lucio laughs at him for getting scolded, but our boy doesn't care. He just made $1.5 million. Now the only problem is this urgent mission saving Ares' hunter in 5 hours. Back at the house, he asks what the hell this job is about. Ares explains that he hired a hunter, but when he checked his location, the guy is marked to die today. Hajin asks why Ares doesn't just handle it himself. Lucio explains that this violates the law of causality. Chiron clarifies that it's forbidden for gods to interfere in the life and death cycle of humans. No matter how hard it is to accept, all gods understand that fate isn't in their hands. However, Ares insists this is different. He can't let this hunter die. He bet everything he had on this person. There's a type of mythic level hunter. Basically, gods can invest points into hunters to grant them more power. As the hunter gains fame, the god earns more and more. On the other hand, if a god invests their points into a hunter and they die before completing their mission, it's like investing in cryptocurrency and losing everything. Chiron tells him he's crazy for betting everything on a single hunter. Turns out Ares is a gambling addict. Ares is shaking, begging for help just one more time. Not only did he invest his own points, but he used his father's points too, without even knowing. Hajin and Lucio are shocked, because if Ares is talking about his father's points, that means he just wasted Zeus' entire fortune. Back on the train, our boy mutters that he's not a miracle worker. How the hell is he supposed to protect a hunter, that mythic level talent? On the other hand, since this is an urgent request and Ares is paying, it's bound to be worth it. Lucio asks where they're heading, and our boy shows her the ticket to Busan. Inside a cave, monster corpses are scattered everywhere. Seongjin yells for everyone to get ready. The next wave is coming. The entire guild goes on high alert as the beasts charge in. But damn, Seongjin cuts through them effortlessly, like slicing butter. Could it be that this bastard, who has all the mythic points, is just mowing down enemies like nothing? The problem is that no matter how many monsters they kill, the waves seem endless. Erin, our boy's future waifu, is also there, slicing through them all. Seongjin asks how things are looking, and she says that for now, at least the back of the cave is clear. He tells them to use this chance to catch their breath. Everyone sits down in the cave resting. The leader wants to know how far they are from the boss. A teammate says they should see the door soon. Even though they were struggling, it's impressive that they made it this far in half the usual time. Seongjin then says he heard that 6 rank hunters had to retreat, so the boss must be insanely strong. A teammate explains that the boss is a 10-meter tall creature. The group would have stood a chance if they encountered the boss at full strength. The problem is, by the time they find it, they'll all be exhausted. Seongjin commends them for falling back and calling for backup. Then he stands up and says it's time to keep going, because he wants to get home as soon as possible. The group walks forward, stopping in front of a massive door. They know the boss is right behind it, and everyone gets ready. As the door begins to open, Seongjin tells the tanks to take the lead. Inside, they find themselves in a cavern even bigger than the last one. The strange thing, however, is that there's nothing in the room. They look around confused, wondering what happened because they're certain this is the boss room. Suddenly, a few drops fall onto Erin's clothes. She wonders why water is dripping from the ceiling and looks up. Her expression immediately changes and she yells for everyone to retreat. But too late. A wave of purple liquid rains down on them. Seongjin shouts for her. But at that same moment, several adventurers start getting pulled away. He turns to the guy who gave them information and demands to know why everything is different from what he described. The guy starts trembling and suddenly tentacles burst out of his mouth as he whispers that he brought everything his mother asked for. At that moment, it's clear this was a trap. Above them, a massive gelatinous creature covered in countless eyes stretches its tentacles downward. The scene shifts to a beach. Our boy and Lucio are standing there staring at the portal he has to enter to save, well, whoever it is. Yeah, like it's some NASA-level secret. We all know who it is. Lucio, frustrated, demands to know why she can't go with him. He explains that she needs to be realistic. This gate is the second biggest after Tartarus. He knows she's mad because he nearly died yesterday, but the problem is he only has one helmet. Then he gets an idea and hands her some cash, saying she can use it to buy all the sweets she wants. But Lucio throws the money in his face, saying she's not that easily bought. He shrugs, saying that's a shame, because with that money, she could buy 50 pieces of candy. Her expression immediately changes upon realizing just how much that is. While she's processing that, he steps into the portal, telling her to remember, if she meets a stranger, send them away. A flash of light, and he finds himself inside the dungeon. As he walks, he notices that this time it's some kind of cave. He steps on something gross and wonders what it is. That's when he notices a pile of dead monsters up ahead. Now it makes sense why the people inside are in danger. There are way too many monsters here. The problem is that now he's here too, and he'll have to get through all of this. If he had his motorbike, it would be easy, but it's not here. Not to mention, his suit is still on cooldown. It's been 10 seconds since he entered the dungeon, and he's already out of options. That's when the shop menu pops up, reminding him that he can always buy something in an emergency. For a second, he gets excited. But when he checks the store, his motorbike costs 100,000 points to summon. What kind of bike costs 1,000,000,001? As he's complaining about the price, someone approaches him from behind. The person asks what he thinks he's doing, and he jumps from surprise, accidentally tapping the motorbike purchase. It's Lucio, saying there was no way in hell she was letting him go alone. And just like that, there go 100,000 points. He demands to know what she's doing here. He already told her she couldn't come. Lucio, as stubborn as ever, says she already told him she was coming. Poor Hajin is giving her an earful when suddenly something glows beside them. Lucio tells him to take a look. And sure enough, the motorbike appears. But wait a second, this isn't his old bike. He bought a new one. Our boy is beyond hyped, and it's a good thing because a whole swarm of monsters is coming. He throws Lucio onto the back and accelerates through the dungeon. Meanwhile, back in the boss room, the purple slime rain is still falling. Stallion realizes that this was the boss's plan from the start. And now, unfortunately, everyone is trapped in the tentacles, except for him. As he searches for a way to save them, a strike comes from above. He barely dodges and unleashes a storm of slashes. Attacks are coming from all directions, and he knows that sooner or later, he'll get caught. The problem is, how does he fight a boss that's on the ceiling? It's nothing like what they were told to expect. On top of that, it's the first time he's heard of a monster capable of taking control of a human. If this thing escapes the dungeon, the entire world will be in chaos. It has to be stopped here. Inside one of the tentacles, Erin is floating. Suddenly, her eyes snap open, and she destroys everything around her with a barrage of slashes. Right then, Stallion rushes over and says he's glad she made it out. He asks how she's feeling, and she says she's fine, but at her limit. They need to bring the boss down quickly and free everyone trapped. She charges ahead, saying she'll draw its attention and create an opening. The boss sends more attacks her way, but she dodges effortlessly. She lunges in with her daggers, landing a direct hit. That's when she sees the opening Songjin was waiting for. He activates the divine power of Ares. His strongest attack, Mars Punishment. Energy gathers and explodes, engulfing the boss in a massive pillar of flames. A few seconds later, he's completely exhausted. This skill is one of the few mythic class abilities, so he's sure the boss is dead. It's only because of this skill that he keeps his title as guild leader, and until now, no boss has ever survived. But of course the boss survived. Otherwise, our boy wouldn't have to show up to save this idiot, and the damn thing wouldn't still be staring at him with its cursed demon eye. The poor guy is wondering how this monster is still alive, but Erin just yells at him to stop standing around like an idiot and start running. Looks like the guy is even up on life because he just apologizes and stands there. As the boss charges up another attack, he declares that this is their end. Songjin is going full drama mode, saying he wasn't strong enough to save his friends. The boss's eye swells up, preparing to fire, when suddenly, a motorbike speeds straight through it. Our boy grins and says, "Deliveries here." Both Songjin and Erin are speechless, their jaws on the floor, unable to process what just happened. Meanwhile, Hajin is fuming over the fact that his 100,000 coin motorbike is already covered in filth. But hey, he made one hell of an entrance. Through the cloud of smoke, the guild leaders are staring in shock, trying to comprehend what just happened. Why the hell did a guy on a motorbike just show up? Suddenly, someone steps forward, saying that humans really gave this thing an awful name. Lucio, in full biker mode, says she's the elite pilot. The two of them are just staring at this weird little girl, trying to figure out who she is. Meanwhile, Lucio is standing there, striking a pose, telling them not to freeze up in front of the great Lucio. But just then, the guy with the monster mouth appears behind her. For a second, she thinks this is the end for Mega Racer Lucio, until Hajin swoops in, yanking the disgusting creature out of his mouth, demanding to know what kind of freaky people these are. The poor guy who was getting devoured immediately passes out in Lucio's arms. Hajin then notices a flash of light, turning his head just in time to see that, even with its eye pierced, the boss is still alive. At that moment, he knows, this must be the true boss of the dungeon. Looks like he arrived just in time. He asks, which one of you is Songjin Park? From the back, Songjin responds that it's him. Our boy stumbles over, circling him, asking if he's hurt, checking him up and down. He's super curious, saying that his face looks familiar. That it hits him, he saw this guy in Tartarus. He never imagined he'd run into this hunter all the way out here, small world. Songjin yells at him to focus and kill this damn boss already. But Hajin just shrugs and asks what that has to do with him. As far as he knows, it's hunters who kill monsters, and he's just a delivery guy. There's no way he's fighting. The truth is, his suit is still on cooldown. so he literally can't do anything right now. That's when Erin's expression changes, saying she didn't expect him to be the kind of person who plays with people's lives. He tells her to chill out. All he's saying is that Seongjun should be the one to kill this boss, not him. Obviously, Seongjun thinks that's insane. He doesn't even have a weapon anymore and is completely exhausted. But that's when Hajin pulls out his phone. Deliveries here. The weapon of Ares, the one he brought with him. As a radiant glow fills the room, both Seongjun and Erin shield their eyes, trying to understand what's happening. Seongjun's eyes widen as he sees the legendary greatsword manifest before him, a sword believed to exist only in myths. The ender of wars. Our boy turns to leave, saying that his job is done. But Seongjun calls after him, asking who sent this sword and how he can just walk through dungeons if he's not a hunter. Hajin turns back, his arm glowing with divine energy, and says, "You can call me the Divine Delivery Man." Hopping onto his motorbike, he adds, "We'll talk later, bye." Seongjun is completely lost, trying to figure out who the hell this lunatic is. Meanwhile, the boss is preparing another attack. With no other option, Seongjun grabs the sword, his only chance. The moment his hand touches it, a red energy surges into the sky, and he feels an entirely new strength course through him. For a second, his entire form shifts. He is fully awakened into Ares' mythic form. Eren watches, stunned at the immense power radiating from him. The boss prepares its final attack, but now Seongjun is cold, calm, and calculated. He prepares his own strike, saying that for the first time he actually feels like he can win this fight. He activates Ares' divine power, causing the sword to grow massive, engulfed in roaring flames. With a single swing, he slashes forward. The boss retaliates, launching an attack of its own, a full-on Dragon Ball clash. But just like Goku is the protagonist, Seongjun is not. Even so, his attack overpowers the monsters, completely vaporizing it. The explosion forms an X, illuminating the entire cavern. As the smoke clears, Eren stares in shock. Not only did he kill the boss, but he also destroyed the entire ceiling. Damn, this guy is insane. At least Ares' power is finally fading. Otherwise, he would have been way too OP. Ares catches the unconscious guy and says he did a good job. But she's far more curious about who that biker kid was. Back in the city, our boy is starving and just wants to find some food. Even the Divine Delivery Man has needs. Meanwhile, the news is already reporting that the gate in Hyundai City has finally been cleared. And it's all thanks to the strongest hunter in the country, Seongjun Park. Or so they say. Lying in a hospital bed, Seongjun mutters that it's all anyone is talking about. But he knows that without that delivery man, he wouldn't have stood a chance. He glances to the side, lost in thought. That guy isn't normal, especially considering he's delivering artifacts that belong to the gods. At that moment, someone comes running down the hallway. It's Doyen, who bursts in, calling for the guild master, asking if he's okay. But as soon as he sees the boss, he mutters that the bastard doesn't even look that hurt. Then he gets excited, saying he heard that the kid completely destroyed the boss. No wonder he holds the title of the third strongest. Besides, he wants to know what that red sword was and where the other one went. Seongjun simply responds that it broke. Shocked, Doyen immediately says that sword cost 100 billion, so how the hell did it break? But the guy tells him not to worry because the new one he got is much better. An item delivered by none other than the Divine Delivery Man. Doyen is practically having a seizure, drooling. Who knows what's going through his head? But Seongjun says it's good he's here because he needs a favor. Now that he knows the identity of that guy, he wants Doyen to find his address. Doyen asks why, and obviously the boss wants to recruit him into the guild. The scene shifts to the Temple of Ares. Ares himself walks in, grinning, saying that since the kid came back, he must have delivered the sword. Our delivery man tells him not to worry, that he delivered it smoothly, and that the hunter is alive. Ares relaxes, saying it's no wonder the kid has such a solid reputation. Then he tells him to come inside because he wants to give him his reward. The kid smiles, thinking there's no way he's falling for a trick from Olympus' biggest troublemaker. Meanwhile, Lucio tells him to show more respect since this man is a prince of Olympus. That's when Hajin Lee suddenly remembers, right? This guy is royalty. They walk through the temple while our boy curiously glances around. Suddenly, Ares stops and calls for Lucio, telling her to wait there for a bit. Only Hajin Lee is supposed to follow. The poor girl doesn't even get an explanation, and our boy just waves goodbye. They continue down the temple's corridors, and suddenly, Hajin looks up, startled. The door in front of him is massive, and Ares says it weighs 3 tons. Our boy asks how they're supposed to open the Hunter x Hunter style door, to which Ares replies, just use Nen and boom, the door opens. Obviously, the amount of treasure inside is absurd. Everything in there belongs to the heir of Olympus and the god of war himself, Ares. Of course, our guy immediately wants to know how much all of this is worth and asks if he can pick anything. I thought Ares would be stingy, but he actually tells him he can choose whatever he wants. Then he crouches down, saying he knows something good, and pulls out a golden box. Hajin Lee asks what it is, and the guy says he doesn't know either. Our boy wants to know why he's giving him something like that then. To which the god responds that even for him, this item would be considered a rare treasure, so it's best to keep it. He doesn't know exactly what it is, but he guarantees that whatever it is, it's definitely not useless. After all, it was given to him by a god of Olympus, who said it was one of the most precious treasures he owned. He's curious about it himself, so he's sure it must be a great reward. However, judging by Hajin Lee's expression, it doesn't seem like anything good. He says it's garbage and Ares tells him to show it. So our boy pulls out a tiny wooden stick, maybe a reference to that other work where a level 99 wooden stick became overpowered. Out of nowhere, the scene shifts to a vast ocean, where a large ship is sailing and a man shouts that they have a problem. They run into a group of sirens and yeah, that's definitely a problem. Poor Jason, he's about to fall for their song. The scene shifts back to our boy smacking Ares with a stick. Everything is a mess, but we're back with our boy waking up. His body is exhausted. Looks like he slept for a long time. After getting a wooden stick from Ares, yeah, weird, he went home, passed out, and now he's waking up to Lucio dreaming about sweets. He tells the cursed child to wake up, but then realizes she's probably really tired too and tucks her in with a blanket. Sometime later, at a convenience store, he buys an energy drink and some chocolate, connects the cashier, and glances to the side. A poster announces that the hunter exam is coming up. It's in 3 days, but becoming a hunter is something he's never even considered. The problem is that it's getting harder and harder to enter and leave dungeons while keeping his identity hidden. Maybe he should give this hunter thing a shot. He heads home, Lucio asks for sweets, and he says he brought something good. But then a system notification pops up. It's a request from Hephaestus, and he tells her they'll have to eat later. With his new motorbike, he arrives at the scorching hot location, greeting the dwarf god. The little guy is happy he arrived so quickly, and our boy asks what's up. Hephaestus says that lately, everyone's been talking about how he saved Chiron's leg and helped Ares. Hajin, looking all awkward, says he didn't think the news would spread so fast. It was all just luck. Then he asks what today's delivery is, and the little dwarf glances behind him. A man approaches, and Hephaestus says he arrived at the perfect time. At that moment, Lucio looks startled at the man's face. And as always, Hajin has no idea who it is. Hephaestus then says this guy is as fast as lightning when it comes to sea deliveries. His name is Jason, and he works for Argo Deliveries. And just like Hajin, he has no idea who this guy is. I checked Google and found out that he really is some kind of mythical sailor from the Argonauts. I still have no idea what that means exactly, but apparently he exists. Well, not exists, because it's mythology, but you know, he exists in mythology. He introduces himself to our boy, saying he can call him the Great Adventurer. Man, I can't believe I actually Googled him, just to have them explain the whole thing to me now. But basically, Jason has a group called the Argonauts, which is made up of a bunch of travelers and Avengers. Jason thanks our boy for healing his adoptive father's leg. Then he asks if they can get straight to business, and Hajin says that's fine. That's when Jason reveals that his company is facing some problems. Unfortunately, a bunch of sirens have appeared along their route, and they can't get through. In the past, whenever this happened, they had Orpheus to deal with the sirens. But right now, he's away on a long business trip, so there's not much they can do. That's when Jason heard rumors about the Great Delivery Man and came to talk to our boy. Hajin Lee asks if the guy is seriously asking him to handle the sirens, to which Jason replies that yes, that's exactly what he's asking. But our boy is confused. Is he a delivery guy or an exterminator? Why does everyone keep trying to hire him to kill things? Jason tells him not to get discouraged, saying that once he hears the reward, he definitely won't want to refuse. Turns out, the mission to take out the sirens is worth 500,000. Damn, but still, killing sirens? That's kinda harsh. They're cute. Well, sort of. But obviously, Hajin is pretty motivated to take them out for that kind of money. That's when Hephaestus reminds him that sirens live in the ocean, so it's going to be really hard for him with just a motorbike. Our boy is so lost in life that he didn't even realize sirens live in the sea. Come on, man. But Hephaestus tells him not to worry because he has the perfect magic for this. Already on the ship, they're approaching the melodic isles. Jason explains that they're just up ahead, and Hajin tells him not to worry, he'll take care of it. Jason thanks him and says that once he gets back, they'll send a boat to bring him to shore. Right then, our boy jumps in, calling for Lucio. Wait, did he activate his bike? Hold on, is this bike aquatic? Ah, sneaky move. His hat is buffed with water magic from Hephaestus. Basically, it's Naruto's water-walking jutsu, but for his motorbike. Lucio, however, warns that he clearly doesn't know what a siren really is. He's imagining some kind of hot mermaid with a fish tail. But Lucio tells him he has no idea how dangerous their songs are. Even the great hero Odysseus had to plug his ears when sailing past these islands. A small group of these creatures could easily take down a kraken. Hajin tells her not to worry, he came well prepared. When it comes to handling violent monsters, there's nothing better than beating them senseless. The sirens are lurking in the water, whispering among themselves that a nymph and a human are approaching. They start diving into the ocean, saying they'll have to deal with him. Our boy is casually cruising on his motorbike when Lucio suddenly warns him that something's coming. And then, bam! The creature opens its huge mouth, revealing a horrifying monster. But before it can do anything, Hajin swings his wooden stick right into its face. Yep, that's exactly what happened, folks. No other interpretations needed. He remembers Ares telling him not to worry because a gift from Zeus is bound to be incredibly powerful. So he asks the siren how it feels to take a hit from a plus 99 enchanted wooden stick. But the siren just blinks at him, completely unfazed. She says it felt more like getting hit with one of those foam pool noodles. That's when Hajin suddenly recalls Air's smug face and realizes he's been scammed. This damn stick is useless. Sometime later, the Sirens are searching the area, wondering where the two disappeared to. Our boy is hiding behind a rock with Lucio, helmet activated. He asks how things look, and she says that all the monsters went in the opposite direction, so they're safe for now. Right in front of them, though, is the Siren's nest. And he remembers what Jason told him. Instead of fighting them all, it's easier to just kill the queen. Because the queen falls, the rest of them lose their power. Lucio, however, says this plan is insane, especially because Ares' stick is worthless. Hajin grips the stick and says he really wants to beat that bastard up. But at the same time, he still has the store. There's nothing in this world that can't be solved with money. And just like that, a golden orb of Zeus' thunder appears. And yeah, obviously, it wasn't cheap. Asterisk, 150,000 points. Asterisk, roughly $1.5 million. Meanwhile, inside the Siren's lair, the queen is looking very well fed. One of the uglier ones says they've been without food for 10 days and asks for permission to hunt. But the Siren queen, in all her beauty, refuses. Orpheus, the one who usually interferes with their hunting, isn't here. An opportunity like this won't come twice. They'll pretend to be calm until a large human ship tries to pass. That's when they'll strike. They all just need to be patient because soon the perfect meal will arrive. Damn, she's stunning, but she's terrifying. And our boy heard everything. He finds it insane how she's casually planning a massacre of an entire ship full of humans. Lucio immediately says that their plan's obviously to eat Jason's entire crew. Suddenly, Hajin asks her if she remembers the black ramen they ate. She says yes, and that it was delicious. He then tells her that if she helps him pull off a certain plan, he'll buy her the luxury version, which is even better. She immediately straightens up, saying she's focused. He then leans in and whispers the entire plan in her ear. She asks if he's sure and warns that it might be a bit risky. However, he takes off his helmet, puts it on her head, and says he's counting on her. He's sure she can do it. With that, she flies away, saying she won't disappoint him. He knows the hat's effect only works within a certain range, so at this moment, the mermaids can see him. That's when he shouts, calling them a bunch of dumb fish. The beautiful things, the dangerous enemies, turn around, wanting to know how he got into the temple. Our boy turns around, slaps his own butt, and tells them to come and kill him. Until now, I hadn't seen the artist give this much attention to any waifu, but for our boy, he even added shadow and lighting effects. The queen, obviously not pleased, orders them to capture him. With that, the biting monsters all charge toward our guy, who is already running for his life. The problem is, since he unequipped the helmet, his aquatic mobility is about to deactivate. Right at that moment, he shouts for Lucio, who is on his back holding the orb of the gods. He then activates the orb's power and says he's leaving. It was a one-time use item and the entire temple explodes. The mermaids that were chasing him seem to be buried under the rubble and the whole place collapses. The initial plan was just to kill the queen, but since they were a little behind, he ended up wiping out everything. Now he knows Jason's life will be much easier. Lucio appears to congratulate him, but our boy finds it strange. If he killed the queen, why didn't he receive any reward? That's when the sea monster, emerging from the debris, grabs Lucio's leg. The queen asks what they think they're doing. At that moment, she wasn't hearing the breathing of any of her daughters. Our boy screams for Lucio, who was about to be devoured. He jumps, activating stage 2 of his suit, and rushes toward her. Man, he landed a solid hit on the queen's cheek, telling her to get away from Lucio. The fool spun around in the water from the impact. Our boy is impressed with the power of the suit's second stage. The problem is that now the queen had disappeared. When he looks underwater, she suddenly appears right next to him. Man, she grabbed his leg, and I don't know if that's good or bad. Yeah, considering she pulled him down into the water, I think it's bad. The kid is being dragged into the depths. She warns him that she'll keep pulling him to the bottom of the ocean until he dies from lack of air. Man, Hajin gets all dramatic, wondering if this is really the end for him. He just managed to buy his first apartment and still has so many points to spend. He didn't want to die, and he wouldn't accept dying like this now. It was about time to smack this boss down. At that moment, his great club was in overload mode, running at 100% power. He slammed it into her head so hard she looked messed up, my god. Her whole head was trembling, and he followed up with a relentless combo, smashing her face with the club. The beating was intense, the ocean glowed, and Lucio was shocked to see our boy safe. With the big club in hand, he declared that justice had been served and the mermaids were defeated. Sometime later, at a Chinese restaurant Lucio was eating. She said that this fancy dish was really delicious. Our boy smiled, saying he was happy that she liked it. From now on, if she ever wanted something, all she had to do was ask, and he would pay for it. He knew there was a high chance things could have gone wrong, but thanks to Lucio, he managed to survive that ordeal and take down the Sirens. Of course, he still takes credit for landing plenty of hits on the queen. Then he tells her to have fun because she deserves it. After all, the bastard has 633,000 points. If he converts everything into cash, the boy has $6 million. Even considering the 150,000 he had to spend to buy Zeus' power, he still made a huge profit. Fighting monsters really got him interested, and that's when he remembers the hunter exam. Lucio asks what that is, and he jokes that it's fried pork, but to come over and dip it in the sauce. When they're at the restaurant, she says it's delicious, and he tells her the whole plate is hers. Too lazy to keep dipping in the sauce, she decides to pour everything onto the plate. But he immediately smacks her on the head, saying that's bad manners. Sometime later, they're back home, exhausted. She ate a ton, and he tells her she went overboard. These past few days, he's been working hard, so he was thinking about taking a vacation. But right then, the doorbell rings and someone asks if he's home. He drags himself to the door, saying, yeah, he's coming. When he opens it, there's someone there wearing a mask, glasses, and a beanie, asking if he's Hajin Lee. Our boy immediately assumes it's some weirdo and slams the door shut, saying he's not interested in buying anything. The person insists, but our guy is pissed, since when do door-to-door salesmen even know your name? Lucio asks who it is, and he says it's some annoying salesman. Meanwhile, the poor guy is banging on the door, saying he knows exactly who Hajin Lee is. He's the divine courier. Now he's screwed. The guy really knows who he is. Opening the door in frustration, he sees it's Xiangjun with a giant sword. Our guy thinks this dude has lost it and asks why he's here. Xiangjun says it's obvious. He's here to recruit him into the Yangwen Guild. Later, at a cafe, Xiangjun reaches into his pocket and says that before they get into details, there's something he wants to give him as a reward for his help last time. Our boy accepts it, and bam, he just scored $500,000. Easy money for this kid. With a smug look, he says it wasn't necessary to give him that much. Xiangjun reassures him it's fine, then says it's time to talk business. If he signs with the guild, he'll get a $200,000 signing bonus plus an annual salary of $300,000. On top of that, he'll earn incentives based on his contributions. He asks what the boy thinks of the offer. Xiangjun is certain that kind of money would change any hunter's life. There's no way he can refuse. Douyin, back at the hospital, told him that not only is Hajin not a hunter, but he doesn't even have an official license. Even so, he was doing deliveries inside Tartarus, took down 8 trigrams, and mysteriously ended up in another dungeon. Even without a license, having him in the guild would bring in a lot of money. Xiangjun is pumped, until our boy apologizes and says he's going to decline. The fool was already talking dates, thinking the deal was sealed, but Hajin reminds him once again that he's not accepting the offer. Now outside, completely desperate, Xiangjun says they can renegotiate the terms. But our boy says he's not interested in joining any guild. The guild leader wants to know what he's doing that's better than this life-changing offer. Our boy shows him his phone and says, obviously, is deliveries. The moment he accepts a request, Xiangjun is blinded by the flash, and our boy vanishes. The scene shifts to the middle of the mountains. Lucio comments that he said he was going to rest today. Dripping with sweat, he says that was the plan. He figured the damn customer who made the request would be at the top of a mountain. Usually, when he accepts a request through the phone, he gets teleported straight to where the person is. However, for some reason, this time he ended up at the base of the mountain and has to climb all the way up. It's that damn Xiangjun's fault for trying to recruit him into the guild when he has no interest at all. He has some suits with cooldown times, but he doesn't actually have any powers. Besides, he can make way more money with deliveries than with that offer, so Xiangjun can go screw himself. Sometime later, they finally reach their destination. Both of them are exhausted, but suddenly, his expression changes. Right in front of him, there are giant dark slimes with a bunch of eyes all over their bodies. As he wonders what the hell this is, she says she has no idea either. Then, while walking around, he steps on one of them and feels the same sensation as with that monster he encountered in the dungeon. He asks if she knows what kind of creature this is from mythology, but she says she's never heard of anything like it. Just as she says she has an idea of what it might be, the ground suddenly starts shaking. The monster rises up behind him, and our guy thought they were all dead. But then someone with a golden body approaches and throws a punch that makes everything explode. Hajin Lee is completely startled, and the man says he's way too old to be fighting like this. With long hair and covered in scars, he sighs and says his body isn't what it used to be. Turning to his radio, he comments that he's heard a lot about the kid. Our boy is stunned by the size of the legend in front of him and wonders if this is his client. He asks Lucio if she knows who this guy is, and she responds, obviously. He was the one responsible for completing the 12 labors given by the goddess Hera, who, by the way, seems to be quite well endowed. This is the hero who helped the gods defeat the giants, the legendary Hercules. The guy, a little embarrassed, says that's just a children's story and makes him feel shy. Our boy starts thinking that if that's the case, then this is the man who shot the poison arrow into Chiron's leg. Then Hercules asks him if he was the one who helped Chiron recover. All awkward. Hajin Lee says it was the Hydra that helped. He didn't do anything. However, Hercules smacks him on the back, saying he's really happy he did that, almost breaking his suit. Then the guy confirms that Lucio is right. He is indeed Hercules, a demigod from the past, who is now a mythical being that protects Olympus. Our boy and Lucio, skipping long introductions, just say their names. Hercules then explains that he called them because he needs their help. Our guy asks with what, and Hercules points to a cave, telling him to take a look. During the giant attack, that place became a portal for monsters to invade Olympus. Lately, various tentacle creatures have been emerging from there. and he's never seen anything like them before, so he suspects it might be an invasion from another realm. Our guy has a feeling this might be related to that monster from the dungeon. Hercules says his request is simple. He wants to know where these monsters are coming from. At that moment, our boy receives a mission to find out why the monsters are appearing with a 24-hour time limit. If he fails to complete it or cancels the request, you will lose 200,000 coins. What the hell? However, glancing at Hercules with his bulging muscles, he just accepts, saying he'll try to figure it out quickly. Hercules then says he's exactly how his wife, Abby, described him. Our boy suddenly remembers that this Abby is the first airhead who opened the door for him to make his first delivery. And with that, our guy starts thinking about how interesting it is that all this mythology is interconnected. Then the system says it will guide him to the destination. However, our guy notices something strange about the map. Looking at a cliff, he says it's pointing in that direction, but how the hell is he supposed to get there? Hercules picks him up and tells him not to worry, that he'll get there at record speed. Before our boy can respond, something has already been thrown. Meanwhile, back at Songjin's guild, Doyen bursts into the room in a panic, calling for the guild master. The leader tells him not to just barge into his office like that, but Doyen is eager to know how the conversation went with the delivery guy. The leader simply explains that he was completely rejected, and the guy didn't even seem interested in listening to what he had to say. His friend finds that weird, since the offer he made would change anyone's life. But Songjin says he has no idea, the guy really just disappeared out of nowhere. Doyen thinks that's a random excuse, but the other says he doesn't think that's the case. He's been thinking about how Hajin appeared in that dungeon before. On top of that, after everything happened, he even received a message from Ares himself confirming that he sent that item. Songjin tells him not to worry, that he'll try inviting that kid to the guild again. Meanwhile, he's just chilling, playing his Dark Souls, sneaky bastard. At that moment, Doyen comments about how his sword is still in perfect condition. Since he got Ares' sword, obviously he sold the old one, which was also worth a fortune. The plan was to use part of that sale to recruit our boy, but, well, he told him to go screw himself. Doyen then says that apparently he hasn't heard the news. There's a guy from Japan who seems very interested in buying it. The leader comments that if that's the case, it's time to start preparing for the shipment. That's because recently, every time an extremely expensive item is sold, there have been thefts along the way. The sword he used is a valuable item, so he can't risk having it stolen. He thinks about hiring someone, and that's when he remembers. Our boy is a delivery guy. And with that, he tells his friend that he just got an idea. Back with our boy, who was thrown by Hercules and ended up in the middle of the ravine. The poor guy had his head all twisted, trying to figure out why he got tossed like that. That's when the system notifies him that he's actually almost at the location. Afraid of having every bone in his body shattered, he pulls out his little motorcycle midair. He's accelerating straight down, then boom. Not sure that was a good idea. Smoke rises, but it turns out the bike has some insane shock absorbers. The boy knows he only survived because of that. Hercules almost killed both of them. He even tells poor Lucio, who had passed out, to wake up because they've arrived. The problem now is that he has no idea what exactly he's supposed to be looking for. He starts complaining about how he's supposed to find something he doesn't even know exists, when suddenly, a giant foot lands on his back. The entire place begins to shake, and Lucio clings to his leg, trying to understand what's happening. He remembers that when they encountered that monster in the dungeon, he also felt a similar earthquake. But then he hears someone say the name Hercules. Our boy is confused, not knowing who said that, and looks behind him. There was a guy with something on his back. If I'm not mistaken, this bastard carrying a whole planet on his shoulders is Atlas. And damn, the guy is absolutely gigantic compared to our boy. He wonders why there's a giant down here. Atlas asks if he knows someone called Hercules. All crooked, our boy tries to explain that he was recently hired by Hercules to investigate what's happening in this region. He mentions the three monsters, and suddenly, Atlas starts laughing. With a massive glowing sphere on his back, he says that Hercules must be in trouble if he sent someone here just to be found. Our boy, however, wants to understand why there's a giant with a giant ball and what's going on. Boldly, he asks the big guy if he knows any information about everything that's happening. But Atlas replies that he has no reason to help him or Hercules. Our boy asks Lucia why the guy seems so mad, and she says it's crazy that he doesn't already know. The man in front of him is the Titan who carries the celestial sphere, Atlas. After the Great War, where the Titans were defeated, Atlas was punished to carry a planet for the rest of his life as punishment for his entire race. That punishment came from Zeus, who happens to be Hercules' father. So that explains the whole grudge. Our boy thinks to himself that, damn it, Hercules should have mentioned if there was going to be all this drama in the middle of the job. At that moment, Atlas asks if their little conversation is over, and our boy is shocked that the bastard heard everything. Atlas simply says that, just like the nymph mentioned, if there are monsters roaming the earth, it has nothing to do with him. Now Hajin is screwed, caught up in yet another divine mess when he was just trying to do deliveries. For some reason, he tries playing cute, asking if the Titan really wants to say no to this adorable face. Atlas just tells him to shut up before he gets crushed. But our boy says he's not asking for the information for free. If Atlas tells him what's going on, he'll do any favor he asks. Suddenly, the Titan's expression changes, but Lucio panics, saying he's being way too reckless making an offer like that. Atlas bursts into laughter, saying it's ridiculous, as if a mere human like him could do a favor for a god. But our boy is getting confident, saying you never know, he might be surprised. The Titan considers this and finally says, all right then. For someone human, he's got guts. If that's the case, he wants him to bring him a golden apple. If he manages to get one without dying, he'll be worthy of knowing what the slimes are planning. Lucio immediately says that's impossible and warns him not to agree to this. Golden apples are extremely rare and only grow on Gaia's trees. Among the gods, they're usually given as wedding gifts. But before she can say more, he covers her mouth because suddenly he remembers something. He asks Atlas, that's all you want. I've been calling him a god, but I forgot. He's a Titan. Atlas confirms it, saying he gives his word as a Titan. But our boy tells him to swear by the river Styx. I have to check mythology here. Basically, when a god swears by that river and breaks the oath, they lose their power for a while. Atlas smirks, extending his pinky, saying our boy is really something. But he's not afraid, so he swears by the river Styx. Right then, our boy pulls out his phone and says, well, now you can't go back on your word. The golden apple costs only 1,000 points. Atlas is screwed because our boy can easily buy one from the shop. He spends the 1,000 points and bam, a golden apple appears in his hand. He immediately shows it to the Titan, saying, here's your order. Atlas stands there looking like a total fool, saying this little brat must be joking. Meanwhile, outside the cave, the area is swarming with purple slimes moving around. Hercules is out there, smashing everything that comes out, wondering how long Hajin and Lucio are going to take. That's when he suddenly starts thinking, did I mention the existence of Atlas? He turns back saying whatever, they'll figure it out eventually, when suddenly, a blue light flashes in the distance. Someone is coming to full speed. It's our boy blazing through the sky on his motorcycle. Now his suit merges with the bike, forming the full body combination. He arrives in record time. Hercules is already getting ready to congratulate him, until the wheel slams right into his face. Our boy just crashed into a god. He's standing there looking like a fool, but honestly, I think he did it on purpose to get revenge for getting thrown. A while later, he's face down on the ground, apologizing, saying it was an accident. Hercules says he doesn't care. It's not like the kid could actually hurt him. But our boy tells him his face doesn't look too great. With his face and finger all bent out of shape, Hercules insists he's fine, as if he's totally not injured. Crossing his arms, he says Hajin took so little time that he's sure he didn't get any information. It was definitely a suicide mission. Thinking back, Hercules is certain that damn Titan is still mad about the day he went and stole a bunch of golden apples. Honestly, it's pretty messed up to steal golden apples from the guy who literally can't put the giant ball down. Hercules then says, fine, since Hajin at least tried, he won't be punished. Until our boy casually reveals that Atlas actually told him everything. The god doesn't believe him at first, but then our boy reaches behind him and pulls out a golden apple, saying that thanks to this, the Titan spilled it all. Then we cut back to the cave to the moment Hajin pulled out the apple. Atlas was shocked, wanting to know how a human could possibly have one of these. Our boy, being honest, tells him that you can buy one with a single click in the store. Atlas demands that he hand it over, but our boy just shakes his head. Nope. He says he's afraid of being scammed, so the Titan has to spill the info first, then he'll hand it over. Atlas protests, saying that wasn't the deal, but our boy just lifts the apple like he's about to take a bite. Cut back to the present, and Hajin explains that's how he got all the information out of Atlas. Hercules thinks to himself, this kid definitely isn't a normal human. No wonder he was able to fix his mentor's leg. The only issue is this disrespectful attitude is really reminding him of when he was younger. Finally, he tells our boy, just give me the information already. Our boy says that everything Atlas said was like some kind of riddle, so honestly, he didn't understand much. Then he repeats what the Titan told him. The ground will split into 7 sections. Blue flames will shine here and there. Apparently, it's pretty serious because Hercules immediately starts sweating. This is way worse than he expected. And just as he suspected, these creatures are coming from another world. What he didn't want was for them to be coming from that place. Now he's remembering. Hajin is one of the few people he knows who can travel between the human world and the world of mythology. Was it really fate that he ended up with a normal nymph by his side? To him, the 3 goddesses who weave destiny are truly cruel and beautiful, and he doesn't understand why they place such a heavy burden on the shoulders of a young human boy. Man, now I'm curious too. At that moment, our boy stretches out his hand. Hercules asks what it's for. Obviously, Hajin says he doesn't want to have to repeat himself. It should be pretty clear what he wants. He finished the delivery, so it's time to get paid. Sometime later, sitting on top of the defeated creatures, Hercules is lost in thought when someone suddenly appears, asking what he thinks of the kid now that he's met him in person. It's Hermes, waving as he shows up, saying he just arrived after the 2 left. Hercules addresses him with respect, but Hermes tells him that's not necessary. Even so, the buff dude says he can't treat him as an inferior. After all, Hermes helped a lot with the 12 labors. Hermes sighs, saying he's not here for small talk. Also, Hercules needs to stop ignoring Ares. Hercules just shrugs, saying he doesn't care. That guy's always looking for a fight and disrespecting him, so he's just not talking to him anymore. Hermes laughs, saying Hercules really doesn't know how to make friends, then asks if he's still not on good terms with Atlas. Hercules immediately says no way in hell he's going down there to apologize to that damn bastard. Then Hermes asks, the place Atlas described to the kid, is it the one we're thinking of? Hercules repeats the riddle. The ground will split into 7 parts with fire, and he knows it's that place, because the prophecy literally talks about it. Hermes lifts his staff ready to fly, saying if that's the case, they need to start preparing. He says he'll go warn people, but Hercules tells him not to worry. He knows the kid is the one responsible for all this. But Hermes just grins, telling him to relax, being the messenger is his job. And with that, he takes off, telling Hercules to say hi to the old man for him. As he leaves, Hercules activates his aura and looks over the creatures that appeared, muttering that it's finally time to deal with these things. Meanwhile, back with Hajin, Lucio is fast asleep. Our boy grabs the blanket and rips it off her. She sits up completely out of it, mumbling that she just needs 5 more minutes. But he tells her to get ready right now because it's time to go. She groggily asks where they're even going this early. Our boy reminds her, today is the hunter exam. Still a mess, she says she remembers him mentioning something like that, but she has no idea what a hunter exam even is. He tells her she's an idiot for asking to go without even knowing what it is. She just shrugs, saying staying home is boring anyway. Meanwhile, our boy has already packed his bag, his registration card, some supplies, and of course, his wooden bat for beating people up. Lucio is standing there with her hair looking like a broom, saying she's ready too. He just throws on a cap and tells her to hurry up. At the association, the two of them arrive, looking around at all the hunters, obviously super stylish, while our poor boy is just a regular guy. Underneath his hoodie, though, it's clear the sneaky bastard came prepared. A guy with a microphone announces that the exams are starting and those whose numbers are called should step forward. The first guy is already gripping a massive axe, standing face to face with 3 goblins attacking him. He swings it down with precision. Damn, he split that little thing in half. Our boy thinks 3 goblins is too little, so maybe it's just a precaution. This seems way too easy. Any normal person could take down 3 goblins. If that's the case, he figures the test isn't about whether you can kill, but how you kill. Then they call number 38, that's him. Looks like the hunter test is straight up a UFC ring fight. Standing in the octagon, our boy's plan is to pass smoothly without drawing attention. But the moment he activates his suit among the crowd, there's a red-haired recruiter. Isn't that the woman from the enemy guild? Maybe. She was dangerous. Damn it, the chapter switched to another character. Just show Hajin already. Some dude just obliterated the goblins with his fists, and now everyone's hyping him up. But the chubby dude munching on Doritos says, sure, he looks strong, but he's still missing that one thing every hunter needs. The blonde guy agrees, maybe you still haven't found the real standout candidate. Then the redhead tells the 2 old guys to shut up, but she roasts them too, saying these guys aren't even worthy of being recruited into a 2nd-tier guild. Yep, the redhead is Hajin, the same one who caused chaos with the Black Dragon Guild. This world is lawless. This woman massacred a bunch of hunters, ruined everything, and she's just sitting there calmly judging newcomers. She wonders how things even got to this point. Not long ago, the Black Dragon Guild was the 2nd best in the country. With her dragon tattoo on her thigh, she was highly influential. But after that controversial incident with the 8 trigrams, it lost tons of supporters. Now she's stuck recruiting new members. I'm right here, recruit me. She sighs, hoping she can at least find someone decent. Then it's candidate 38's turn. Lucio is cheering for our boy from a distance while he stands there all crooked. He wants to pass, but he really doesn't want to stand out because that would just complicate things. The goblins charge at him while the whole plan is not to draw attention. Problem is, his suit activates danger detection and he dodges at the last second. He starts noticing that these guys are way slower than those sirens he fought. He could probably dodge them even without the suit. The dangerous redhead is watching, saying number 38's movements are interesting. At the same time, she starts feeling like there's something familiar about this guy. Hajin still has an attack, he's just dodging effortlessly. After a bit, he decides it's time to land a single punch, just enough to kill without making a scene. But the moment his hand makes contact, the goblin disintegrates in front of him. Immediately, she recognizes him. That's the one she was looking for. A bit later, someone congratulates our boy and hands him his badge. Apparently, he got the 3rd highest score ever recorded. They're sure he's going to be one of the best hunters in the world and congratulate him again. Hajin thinks this whole process of becoming a hunter was weirdly anticlimactic. Meanwhile, Lucio congratulates him, saying he was amazing, but now it's time to go eat. He grabs her and says they're going for pork. Then someone appears. They introduce themselves, saying it's a pleasure to meet him. She's got fiery red hair, red eyes, and introduces herself as Hajin from the Black Dragon Guild. Our boy immediately recognizes those curves and knows damn well this woman is dangerous. She says she watched his fight and was very impressed with his skills. She wants to know if he's interested in joining the Black Dragon. Before she can even finish her sentence, he's already walked past her, saying, nah, I'm good. She's stunned and tells him to wait, but he just says he appreciates the offer but isn't interested in any guild. But she can't let this opportunity slip. She needs someone like him to bring the guild back to the top. Out of auctions, she raises her offer minus 5 billion, roughly $5 million, plus a bonus. Suddenly, Hajin pauses and she wonders if she got through to him. He comments on the amount and she confirms, yes, that's the number. She's sure this is enough to make him accept. But then, looking at her like she's an idiot, he turns and asks, so if the black dragon is really this broke, huh? Lucio chimes in saying, sounds like they're just stinky. He keeps walking and she runs after him cursing, saying you won't find a better deal than this. Hajin simply replies that he's already been offered something better. Then he drops the bombshell. Seongjin's guild offered him 20 billion. She freezes. He walks away, leaving her wrecked on the ground. A while later, he and Lucio have already arrived at the restaurant. On TV, they were already reporting about a promising new hunter who had appeared. He's impressed. It's been 1 hour since he passed the test, and there's already a news report. Looking at the menu, he tells Lucio to order and calls the waiter. But before he can even blink, someone's already bringing the food to their table. It's Seongjin, saying the service here is really fast and the food is delicious. Hajin just sighs and asks if this guy is going to keep following him. Seongjin insists that he'd never follow his dear colleague. He was just walking around randomly and coincidentally ran into him. Our protagonist cuts straight to the point. If Seongjin came here to talk about joining the guild, he can forget it because he has zero interest. Seongjin tries to comment on him passing the hunter exam, but Hajin immediately shuts it down, saying one thing has nothing to do with the other. All he wants is to avoid unnecessary trouble, so there's no way he's joining a guild and drawing even more attention. That's when Seongjin corrects him. He's misunderstanding. He's not here to recruit him. He's here to hire him as the divine courier. He explains about the item that needs to be delivered to Japan in 2 days. The problem is, some dangerous women have been stealing deliveries. Our boy admits that deliveries are what he does best, even though he doesn't like bragging about it. With a weird look though, he says the pay better be good. Seongjin tells him not to worry. He's sure the offer will meet his expectations. When Hajin sees the number 2, he assumes it's 200 million. But then Seongjin corrects him. It's 2 billion. Obviously, the very next second, Hajin's face slams into the table, saying not to worry, the delivery will be perfect. As Lucio happily eats, Seongjin says he fully trusts in Hajin's delivery skills. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to an apartment. A girl on the floor says, just give the order, Herms. Damn, what kind of shady business is this? In the next scene, they're on a massive cargo ship. Lucio is amazed, and our boy explains that everything here belongs to the Yangwon Guild. He never imagined he'd be in a place like this. This felt more like an escort mission than a delivery. Right then, 2 guards step in front of him, demanding identification. Our boy just casually pulls out his shiny black card and says he's here on behalf of the Yangwon Guild. The moment the guard sees that VIP status, he steps aside without a word. A while later, they're in the middle of the ship, still amazed by its size. Lucio says it's big, but not as big as the Argonauts Company ship. Hajin laughs. This damn nymph is so proud of Olympus. Then they reach a container with a massive security lock. It's obvious the sword is inside. This thing stands out way too much. But as soon as he verifies it and the door unlocks, he immediately understands why they didn't even bother hiding it. The sword is locked behind grates, chains, and everything imaginable. He finds it weird. Would any thief really have the guts to try stealing this? Lucio looks surprised and he asks if she recognizes this weapon. Of course she does. She knows them all. She confirms that it's the legendary sword of Durandal. Hajin admits her knowledge is impressive, and before she can gloat, he cuts her off. Yeah, I get it. You're some elite mega nymph. Lucio just wants to know what they're going to do now. Our boy explains they need to stay put and make sure the sword reaches its destination. The problem is, it's getting boring, but he can't risk losing those 2 billion. It might sound like a lot for a single delivery, but if this sword gets stolen, he'll have to pay for it. And it's worth way more than that. Then he hears a horn. The ship is finally departing. Right at that moment, a strange gas starts spreading inside the container. Outside, the guards, armed like they're in crossfire, are just standing there, totally calm. That is, until the gas reaches them and they collapse face first on the ground. At this point, you could loot them for their weapons. And that's when a dangerous-looking woman in a tight outfit appears. With a twinkling star in her eye, she cutely announces, Phase 1 is complete. Inside the container, our boy is already knocked out. Until, flick. A sharp flick lands straight on his forehead. Lucio shakes him awake and he jolts up, shocked that he fell asleep just like that. She tells him that a weird smoke started spreading. Now everyone on the ship is asleep. He immediately covers his nose, wondering if this gas is the kind that knocks people out. Checking the sword, thankfully it's still there, intact. What's weird is that his suit should have made him immune to this effect. So maybe it's the thief's special ability. Opening the door, he sees a woman, arms folded. She's praying. She's asking the gods to grant her strength so she can be an honest thief tonight. Our boy already knows. This chick is a clown. Without wasting time, he opens his store menu. Buying something useful would guarantee this delivery, but right then the thief moves. A green flash streaks through the air. A rope wraps around her arm. She flinches, immediately realizing this isn't just a rope. It's binding her like a spider's web. When she turns around, Hajin casually states, "Looks like I caught myself a little thief." What he bought from the store was Arachnan's rope, a strong binding rope, but it breaks if too much force is applied. Now the thief is literally crying on the floor, saying this gas was created by her god, so how is he still awake? He bonks her on the head, calling her an annoying thief who asks way too many questions. The girl insists she's not a thief. She begs him to let her go so she can explain why she needs to retrieve the sword. But Hajin just smirks. Yeah, right. You really think I was born yesterday? It's obvious she's here to steal from the guilds. She accepts the title of thief, but insists she only steals what needs to be stolen. Everything she does is for a greater good. Hajin laughs and she asks if he's ever heard the story of Robin Hood, the honest thief. She says she's exactly like him, just taking from people who have too much to give to those who have too little. Clearly, Hajin and Lucio aren't moved by her speech. He even tells her she needs professional help, and Lucio comments that some old people are just weird. Suddenly, though, the girl shouts and insists he must believe her. She was sent by Hermes to retrieve these items. That sword needs to be returned to its rightful owner so they can prepare for the threats that are coming. Hajin is surprised, while Lucio comments that maybe this girl really is an emissary of that god. What he's thinking, though, is that this poor girl looks too much of a mess to be an emissary. Then he tells her to explain exactly what these so-called threats are. Suddenly, she pulls an orb out of her mouth and says it wasn't meant to be used like this, but she has no other choice. She warns him that he'll pay a high price for interfering today. A purple smoke spreads across the ship, and of course, the moment it clears, she's gone. Already swimming away, she complains that this was a waste since these pills cost a fortune. What she used was an astral form elixir, allowing her to, well, be in astral form. That's it. And she swears she'll get revenge on that tight suit bastard. To be fair, yes, her outfit is tighter than his. Her name is Suyin Choi. She reaches the dock, muttering that that was too close and now the elixir is gone. Meanwhile, she's already remembering our boy, swearing that she'll wipe that smug face off his mouth. That's when a message pops up asking if the mission was a success. She thanks Hermes, saying it was close, but she secured the item he requested. She had successfully stolen the Ring of Dissipation, a legendary artifact from the stories of King Arthur. Hermes asks her to explain what happened. She immediately reports that she used the gas he gave her, but one person was unaffected. The god responds that it's impossible for something like that to happen and demands to know who this person was. She describes him as a guy wearing a tight superhero suit and using a rope that felt like a mythical item to bind her. Immediately, Hermes says that this sounds familiar and asks if there was a child with him. She confirms, yes, there was a small girl with sky-colored hair. But she's confused. How did this god nail it exactly? Apparently, that guy really was important. That's when Ares chimes in, laughing at the coincidence. But he tells her not to worry, that person was chosen. She sighs in relief, knowing that they're all on the same side. Then she pauses and comes to a conclusion. Since they're bound to meet again, she'll personally teach him how to respect his senior. Meanwhile, Hajin is receiving his $2 billion. Just like the guild predicted, a peculiar person appeared and everything turned into a mess. But Durandal safely arrived in Japan, so his job was done. At the very least, his apartment was paid off now. With that, he decides to pay a visit to Hephaestus, since it's been a while since he last saw the guy. Plus, he's curious to see what can be done with the Hydra scale he got. The scene shifts to Hephaestus' workshop, with Hajin knocking on the door. Scratching his chin, he notices the lights are off and the guy hasn't shown up. Of course, Lucio immediately suggests they leave and go eat instead. But right then, someone calls Hajin's name. The moment he turns around, he jumps in shock. It's Hephaestus. And just by the look on his face, Hajin already knows. Someone dangerous is coming. He turns to a high-level woman and tells her that this is the divine courier. They already knew she was dangerous, and she smiles at our boy, greeting him. The artist is getting bold. Hephaestus introduces her as Frigga, the leader of the Valkyries, who even taught magic to Odin, the supreme god of Norse mythology. But our boy completely misreads the situation, thinking his friend is cheating on his wife with this woman. He grabs Hephaestus by the collar, asking if he thinks he's turned into Zeus. Hephaestus quickly explains she's just a client here for business. The woman laughs, saying Hajin must be quite the character to assume she was having an affair with Hephaestus. Honestly, that was a bit of a roast. The dwarf doesn't seem bothered, while our boy is face down on the ground apologizing. Getting back on track, Hephaestus says they should get straight to business. He tells Hajin that he wants him to deliver this letter. The mission is to deliver the letter to the owner of Helheim and investigate the strange events happening in Valhalla. He has 120 hours to complete it and will earn 500,000 points. Hajin repeats the names, confused, while Lucio starts trembling. She explains that this place is known as the afterlife in Norse mythology, the realm of the dead. She's sure this will be extremely dangerous. Like a true filthy rich bastard, now that Hajin has a ton of money, he's not too keen on risking his life anymore. What if he dies with all that cash sitting in his account? Even if he retires today, he already has more than enough money to take care of himself and Lucio. The absolute peak of financial stability. Hephaestus comments that Helheim is probably too dangerous for him. But before he can even finish, Hajin immediately says, "No, I'm definitely taking it. No way I'm rejecting 5 billion. As he confidently declares that this job will be done flawlessly. Lucio kicks him in the back, telling him to stop thinking only about money. Next scene, they're already in a mountainous area with a green lake. Hajin blazing across the terrain on his motorcycle. The place has an extremely eerie aura, probably because it's, the afterlife. Lucio says he only accepted the job because he has no idea how treacherous and dangerous Norse mythology can be. Our boy, however, comments that she used to be a lot quieter. Maybe she should go back to that. But she immediately fires back that it's his fault. Every time they go on a delivery, she feels like she loses a year of her life. In Norse mythology, Valhalla is the sacred place where warriors who died in battle go. On the other hand, Helheim is where ordinary people and the dishonorable end up. Well then, that explains why everyone wants to fight. Either you go to hell and get eaten by demons, or you get into a warrior's paradise. No in between. He remembers that Frigga mentioned she hadn't received news from Helheim for a while, meaning everything should be fine. Calm down, lady, no need to panic. To be honest, that just makes him more suspicious. Now there are 10 minutes left before he arrives. He's really enjoying riding his bike across this little bridge. But halfway through, he suddenly feels something. His chest tightens. The air in his place is completely different, like his entire body is freezing. Lucio says she can't move, and he realizes neither can he. Then a voice speaks from the side. Incredible. A living soul crossing the bridge of Helheim. Damn, another woman. This author is sneaky. He pretends he's not being sneaky, but we all see it. The giant woman stares down at our boy, saying there's something strange about them. She doesn't smell the stench of death on the girl. But the boy, he's already died once. He freezes, completely confused, and asks her to repeat that. Now I'm confused too. Our boy is reincarnated and didn't even know. Damn incoming tragic backstory. My heart's already sinking. Of course, flashback time. Our boy is on his bike on a rainy day. He knows doing deliveries in this weather is a recipe for disaster. But his landlord won't stop texting him, saying he'll be evicted if he doesn't pay rent. His only option was to keep delivering nonstop, until a car cuts him off. But our boy reacts fast. He swerves onto the sidewalk and barely avoids disaster. Of course, he's pissed and about to cuss out the driver. But then, he notices something. His deliveries, all of them, have fallen onto the road. And now he's screwed even harder because he'll have to pay for the damages. As he's typing on his phone, a horn blares. In the pouring rain, the truck driver doesn't see him. And just like that, Truck Cotton claims another victim. That's how Hajin Lee died at 27 years old. And for some reason, someone put a drooling photo of him at his funeral. No idea why, but that's how it happened. Back in the present, he mutters that this woman is probably trying to kill him from a heart attack. But she just says that he reeks of rotting flesh. It's ridiculous for him to claim he's never died. Lucio chimes in, saying that since he visited Tartarus, maybe the stench of death got stuck to him. Just like nymphs who live near water smell fresh. Nymphs who live in the sea smell fishy, and the ones near waterfalls smell like moss. Even though Tartarus and Helheim are from different mythologies, both are realms of the dead. Our boy sniffs himself. He doesn't smell anything. But then he remembers. Back in the cave, the Hydra said she could smell spirits on him. The woman nods, saying that makes sense. She's heard about a mortal who met Hades in the depths of Tartarus. If that's the case, then he should already know who she is, the one responsible for guarding the passage. First of all, our boy has no idea. Second, was that flashback fake, or did he really die? Lucio, however, knows. There's only one person who holds that title, the Bridgekeeper, also known as the Warrior of Wrath. She's certain this woman's name is Manga. Horrible name. The woman congratulates her for knowing her other titles, then asks why they want to cross this bridge. Honestly, Lucio just straight up tells her. Frigga asked them to deliver this letter to Hell. The moment Manga hears the Valkyrie's name, she understands. If it's for Frigga, then she'll allow them to pass. Our boy rides forward. He finds it weird that it was so easy, but hey, better easy than difficult. Time to hit the gas and cross before she changes her mind. From a distance, Magud watches. She never thought that woman would send a mortal and a nymph. No doubt, these two are in for one hell of a journey. Our boy keeps speeding up. He's finally approaching Helheim. But then, everything turns freezing cold, like snot freezing levels of cold. Lucio immediately sneezes and splatters him. Hajin glares at her, already remembering how Frigga didn't warn them about bringing warm clothes. Lucio suddenly remembers. Oh yeah, Helheim is freezing because the dead don't feel cold. Hajin asks why she didn't mention this before. She shrugs, saying it's not like she remembers everything. Does he still remember everything from school? She tells him to quit whining and just buy something from the special shop. Pouting, he reluctantly opens the store. Unfortunately, yeah, that's probably the best option. There was a baby wolf fur coat available, but it cost 200,000 points. At least it provided exceptional warmth, keeping the wearer cozy even in the coldest conditions. He thinks it's ridiculous to spend 200,000 points when his motorcycle only costs 100,000, but it's the only option. He buys it, losing 200,000 points. At least he still has 600,000 left, so that's fine. Putting it on, he tells himself that once he completes the mission, he'll have at least 500,000 points again. Looking back, he notices Lucio is also bundled up in a coat, smiling. He's surprised. He didn't think the purchase would extend to her too. Then he figures it must be like the helmet effect, where nearby people also get covered in the effects area. The next second, he's speeding up, saying that now that he doesn't feel cold, he'll finish this as quickly as possible. But after some time, he's still in the middle of the snowstorm, which seems to be getting worse. He's warm thanks to the jacket, but his bike is struggling, slowing down. Not only is he not sure if he'll make it on time, but his map has stopped working. So they stop behind a large rock. If they kept going, they'd probably get buried in snow. At least, that's what Lucio says. But Hajin waves her off, telling her to stop being dramatic. He only stopped to see if his phone signal would come back. This guy is serious about his deliveries. He still has 41 hours to complete it, but he's already panicking. Damn, the destination is far. Checking the map, he realizes they'll barely make it on time if nothing gets in their way. Lucio suddenly calls out to him, saying he's not stupid enough to fall asleep here, right? But she's actually pointing at something, saying that something weird is approaching. He steps out from behind the rock to take a look, and immediately feels the rumbling footsteps. Man, he thought it would be a yeti or something, but instead there's a buff dude in his speedo running toward them. This guy casually calls out to them, telling them to run or they won't make it out alive. He's being chased by a pack of wolves. Now Hajin's pissed. This idiot just brought the wolves to them. The chase is on. The speeder dude is running for his life, while our boy is flooring his motorcycle. Hajin tries to ask him something, but the guy cuts him off, saying, "Don't talk to me. I'm already struggling to breathe while running." But Hajin is more impressed that this guy is keeping up with his bike on turbo mode. Both he and Lucio shout at the guy, demanding to know why he brought the wolves here. The man says he just wanted to say hi, because since arriving in this place, all he's seen is wolves and snow. That answer doesn't sit right with them. Lucio flat out tells him to turn around and get eaten by the wolves alone. But right then, Hajin spots a cabin in the middle of the blizzard. This was their chance to recover. So he rams his turbocharged motorcycle through the gates and rushes inside. The weird dude yells behind them, telling them to wait. But our boy sees the wolves chasing him and hesitates. What if he lets him in and they all get mauled? So, with zero hesitation, he slams the door in the guy's face, cold-blooded. Then he just thinks to himself that he gave him a chance to earn survival points. But the guy shouts back, "You got it all wrong if you think I'd die that easily." And then, the maniac jumps 30 meters over the wall. Lucio's jaw drops. Her face looks like she just got punched in the head. The guy lands right in front of Hajin and smirks, telling him not to be so shocked. There's no obstacle in this world that a real man can't overcome. Is this guy a Sigma male or an alpha? Hajin is so impressed by the speech that he's giving off hardcore red pill podcast energy. The Speedo man starts walking toward them, saying he'll introduce himself. But Hajin immediately tells him there's no need to get personal. The guy ignores him and introduces himself anyway, as a descendant of Odin, the wise and powerful father of all creatures. His name is Sigurd, a respected warrior of the Volsung family. With no real choice, Hajin says it's nice to meet him. Sigurd replies that the pleasure is his as well. But Lucio, as always, already knows exactly who he is. She's starry-eyed like a fangirl seeing a celebrity. She exclaims that he's the legendary hero, the one who slew Fafnir. Wait, if this dude killed a giant dragon while half-naked, then he's insanely strong. Lucio explains that his title is the Dragon Slayer. The shameless bastard is glowing with pride, saying that those legends are so exaggerated. No need to put me on a pedestal, but Hajin has already figured it out. This dude loves attention. Sigurd then tells them they shouldn't stand in the cold. They should go inside the cabin. Hajin is suspicious. He doesn't even know who lives here. But the guy simply says, "Wouldn't it be stupid to stand out here and wait to be eaten by wolves?" Fair enough. At least after all that running, Hajin checks his map. Their destination is much closer now. Maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to rest for a bit. Inside the cabin with the pot cooking over the fire, Sigurd asks about their story and why they're here. Our boy just says he's doing a delivery for someone who lives very far away. Sigurd looks confused, saying this is the first time he's seen a courier in Helheim. Then Hajin brings up the wolves, asking why he didn't just kill them if he's the Dragon Slayer. Lucio agrees. Wouldn't it have been easier to show his strength and wipe them out? But Sigurd reminds them, "You're forgetting something important. Right now, they're at Helheim." Inside, our boy comments that the castle looks pretty normal for a place in the underworld. Then suddenly, Sigurd stops. A girl in a maid outfit appears. Ganglot, the Wanderer. Before anyone can say anything, she already knows. He's here with companions to deliver a letter from Freyja. He's about to ask for an escort to meet Hel, but Ganglot cuts him off, saying that's already been decided. They follow her down the corridors, and Hajin asks Lucio if this woman is a goddess or a hero from mythology. Lucio explains she's neither, but she's served Hel for a very long time. Lucio then compliments Ganglot, saying it's amazing she's been able to serve the same goddess for so long and even asks for tips. But the maid stays silent. Lucio gets annoyed, but what she doesn't know is that Ganglot is actually internally freaking out over how adorable she is. Then they arrive at a large door and Ganglot announces that Hel is inside. At that moment, Sigurd steps back, saying this is where he leaves. He reminds Hajin to hand over the letter before leaving. The door opens, and our boy is starting to feel nervous. The energy in the room is completely different from any god he's met, because this one rules the underworld. As they step in, Ganglot introduces them. Hel giggles and immediately comments on their peculiar aura, neither alive nor dead. Looks like he's the one causing trouble in Helheim. Hajin instantly clarifies he's just here to deliver a letter and leave. The next second, the letter is snatched from his hands, landing in the tiny hands of a lowly. For a goddess of the underworld, he was expecting a dangerous-looking woman, but instead, whatever this is, she immediately wants to know if everything written inside is true. But Hajin explains he has no idea what's inside. His only job was to deliver it. He asks why she's so curious, and Lucio immediately tells him, "You don't just say things like that to a goddess." Hel leans forward, resting her chin on her tiny throne, saying he's brave. Most people are afraid of her. Because of that, she decides to answer his question. She explains, Valhalla is being invaded, and the invaders are pretending to be from Helheim. But she never ordered such a thing, so someone else is pulling the strings. She says that across all realms and mythologies, there is only one race that could oppose destiny itself. Then, she repeats the riddle about the ground splitting into 7 sections and blue flames appearing. She knows exactly who's behind this. Hajin is low-key disappointed that the ruler of Helheim is just a small girl. Now it makes sense why Ganglot works so hard to stay here. A while later, Hel sits back on her throne, asking if they've left. Ganglot confirms and says she opened a portal to send them straight to Olympus. Hel mutters that Phrygia's sense of humor is something else, sending a human into the realm of the dead. But Ganglot corrects her. That man is no ordinary person. He's known as the divine courier. Apparently, he has a reputation among mythological beings. He collects points as payment. Hel thinks about this and says she understands now. At the very least, thanks to him, she was able to confirm the existence of those creatures. Then she tells Ganglot to prepare for their departure. Ganglot looks confused, but Hel declares, this time she will personally join the journey. Back with Hephaestus, he asks if Hajin is sure that's what she said. Maybe he misunderstood. But Hajin insists he heard it right, and Lucio confirms she was right next to him. Phrygia, meanwhile, brings up the prophecy again, the 7 sections of land, saying she never imagined something like this would happen. Hajin is curious. Why is everyone so serious about this? He remembers when he mentioned it to Hercules, his expression completely changed. Phrygia waves goodbye to Hephaestus, saying she'll come back later for the item, because this is more urgent. She wishes she hadn't heard about this, but now that she knows, she has a duty to spread the information. She doesn't understand Pharaoh. How did it get this bad without anyone noticing? Maybe someone has been hiding the truth and pulling the strings from the shadows, just like Ragnarok. Suddenly, Hajin grabs her shoulder. With a dumb expression, he asks if she's forgetting something. Hephaestus freaks out, calling him crazy for stopping a goddess. But Hajin isn't backing down. No way I'm letting this goddess leave without paying me. This time, Phrygia isn't smiling. She glares at him, calling him insolent. How dare a mere mortal lay hands on me without permission? The air grows heavy and Hajin starts trembling. Not from the cold, but from pure intimidation. But even then, he refuses to leave empty-handed. He starts dancing, chanting money or revolt. This guy actually has a few screws loose. Lucio, standing beside him, comments that studies show that if you do this pose when someone doesn't want to pay, it increases your chances of getting money by 99%. Phrygia stares at him and sighs. She really did forget. With that, our boy not only gets 500,000 points, but also a bonus of 250,000. He immediately thanks her. Now, he officially has 1 million points. Damn, this kid is really becoming a millionaire. Right away, Hajin gets hit with a double foot dropkick to the back by Lucio, calling him a maniac for money. Phrygia just laughs, saying these two are a real mess. She chuckles and apologizes for getting so worked up earlier. Hephaestus, on the other hand, just sighs and tells Hajin he's not sure if he's an idiot or just ignorant. Hajin asks what he did, but the dwarf just waves it off. Forget it. A real man should have courage anyway. Then Hajin says he has a question. He wants to know about this prophecy with the 7 lands appearing, because everyone who hears about it freaks out. Even Hercules looks scared when he mentioned it. Hephaestus is stunned. Hajin has already spoken with Hercules. After Hajin explains everything that happened, the dwarf shouts that he should have mentioned it earlier. Hajin just shrugs, saying he never asked. Besides, he doesn't even know how to get to this place people keep talking about. Hephaestus mulls it over, saying it makes sense that the Council of the Gods is being called soon. It's definitely to discuss this prophecy. That meeting is known as the Council of the Olympians. The last time it happened was 389 years ago. Now he understands why he's been summoned again. Hajin presses for more details about the prophecy, but the dwarf shuts him down, telling him to forget everything he's heard. Just knowing what he knows is already extremely dangerous, so he shouldn't ask anything more. Hajin, being the curious type, says he doesn't understand why they're keeping so many secrets, but Hephaestus simply tells him, this is something only a god can handle. If fate wills it, he'll eventually learn more, since he keeps jumping between realms anyway. But if he values his life, he should avoid digging any deeper. Hephaestus thinks to himself, it would have been better if Hajin knew nothing at all. Sometime later, back in the city, Lucio orders Hajin to open the door so she can sit and rest already. Our boy types in the passcode, and finally they return home, happier than ever. The apartment, which they had been paying for in advance, is finally theirs. A nice fancy place to call home. Hajin, looking around, thinks, Now that all the previous owner's furniture is gone, he finally feels like the real owner. Lucio, on the other hand, immediately calls dibs on a room, but Hajin claims the biggest room for himself. She refuses to accept that and says they should settle it fairly. Rock, paper, scissors. But Hajin grabs her by the arm and without hesitation says, "No way, goodbye." He decides it's a good time to buy new furniture and heads toward the door. Right then, someone knocks. He pauses confused. They just got here. Who already knows his address? He grips the doorknob, telling the person to wait. When he opens it, it's Siren. She's standing there looking stunning, holding a large cake. Hajin asks what she's doing here, and immediately, Lucio recognizes her from the dungeons. Then Hajin remembers. She was supposed to move in next door. Now it all makes sense. Wait, did he already know that? Because I didn't know that he knew. Aaron holds up the big cake, saying, "This is for the divine courier." Hajin takes it, asking what it is. She replies, "It's a rice cake. Rice cake. Where I'm from, rice cakes are totally different. But hey, I'm not Korean, so I wouldn't know if this is actually good." Apparently, she's been wanting to throw a welcome party for Hajin. But our boy rejects it outright. He says he just got home, so now isn't a good time. The poor girl looks disappointed. She really wanted to celebrate. Meanwhile, Lucio, still starving, asks, "So is this whole cake meant to be eaten?" Before Hajin can respond, Lucio grabs it and bolts. While shoveling it into her mouth, she justifies herself, saying it's his fault because she barely ate today. But the second she tastes it, she starts vomiting. Hajin asks what's wrong. Lucio describes it as, "It tastes like eating chocolate, drinking dirty water, and brushing your teeth at the same time." A very specific description. Hajin just tells her, "That's what you get for stealing something that wasn't meant for you." Aaron, on the other hand, calmly takes a bite and says, "I've always liked mint chocolate. Honestly, same. Mint chocolate ice cream. Elite." I like how she's just chilling in his apartment, while Hajin is still trying to figure out why she's actually here. Finally, he asks her. She explains, the guild needs to investigate something, and Seongjin asked her to talk to him. Hajin realizes they're trying to hire him as an investigator now. So he asks, "What's the offer?" But Aaron tells him he'll have to speak with the leader for the details. Hajin doesn't want to see Seongjin again, so he asks her to give a rough estimate of the payment. She holds up 2 fingers. 2 billion? Hajin guesses. Then she raises 2 more fingers. 4 billion. Instantly, Hajin's expression changes. "All right, where's this leader? Let's talk." Sometime later in a parking garage, he's sitting in Aaron's car. He thanks her for the ride, but Lucio complains. They were supposed to go furniture shopping today, not take another job. Hajin insists he's just listening to the offer. They'll go shopping right after. But Lucio keeps grumbling, saying the plan was to buy furniture and then eat something good. That's when Aaron hands her a ticket. She explains that Lucio can use it to eat at the guild cafeteria, where they have tons of good food. Lucio instantly lights up, like a child getting free candy. Hajin takes a quick look behind him. The guild building was massive. No wonder they were the strongest in the nation. A while later, Seongjin welcomes him with a big smile. He even apologizes for not bringing a gift. But Hajin doesn't care. He just tells him to get to the point. He doesn't have time to waste, especially since his partner was getting impatient and wanted to leave already. Seongjin says that's fine and asks him to take a seat. As always, Hajin is already annoyed by how this guy is so friendly. Then Seongjin starts explaining the issue. On the paper in front of him, Hajin sees that it's about reassessing the difficulty of certain dungeons. Seongjin explains, Hajin should already know about this since he's been in dungeons like these, where, out of nowhere, strange creatures appear and the difficulty skyrockets. Because of this, many people have been avoiding entering dungeons, and that's a huge problem, since if no one clears the dungeons, the monsters start escaping. That's called a dungeon break. Hajin nods, saying he knows how urgent this is, but there's no way this guy expects him to solve a problem this big. Then he flips to the next page, and immediately calls them out. You guys are joking, right? They want him to gather intel on the Red Drake, the strongest level 7 creature in the country. Even if all the rank hunters teamed up, they wouldn't be able to take it down. Hajin, furious, asks, aren't you guys the strongest? Why the hell are you sending some delivery guy to handle this? Seongjin explains that they will be helping with the mission. They'll be handling the easier tasks in the dungeon, but they also want information on the Lizardman King. Apparently, that's another terrifying boss, because Hajin is already shaking. He accuses Seongjin of offering him 4 billion just to get himself killed. But then, Seongjin clarifies, 4 billion is just to participate. If he actually gathers the information, he'll get another 4 billion. Hajin freezes. You're doubling the offer? Seongjin, in full Jivichad mode, simply says, yes. They shake hands, deal sealed. Scene change. A mysterious lake with a rainbow arching over it. In the center, an old man holding a golden staff. A horse-headed man arrives and the elder greets him. It's unusual for you to be late. The orange-haired figure says he ran into some issues along the way. He tosses a purple worm onto the ground. I found several of these things down below. They shouldn't be appearing in the Norse regions. The old man studies the creature. I didn't expect them to spread this far already. This virus is moving faster than he thought. He knew the apocalypse prophecy had begun, but he didn't expect it to be so sudden. The horse-headed man prepares to leave. Odin ordered me to go to Helheim. Something's messing with Valhalla. The elder waves him off. No need to worry. Phrygia already sent a Greek hero who dealt with it. The horseman raises an eyebrow. Was it Orpheus or Achilles? The old man shakes his head. No, just an ordinary man like you. Wait, this guy isn't a god. He scowls, clearly irritated. And who is this ordinary man interfering in my work? Is he another one of the Greek gods' little champions? Meanwhile, our boy Hajin is sitting there, smiling like an idiot. Because damn, money is amazing. The scene then shifts to the gate of Chunlin. Hajin is there saying that he swore he wouldn't come within a mile of this place, yet here he is. Lucio, all excited, asks if he has ever been there before, to which he replies no, but he has spent a month in a place far worse than this dungeon. The poor girl is impressed, saying she knew he wasn't an ordinary person. What kind of ordinary person would spend a month in a place more dangerous than this one? He tells her that the kid has no idea about his life, but it's about time she took a look at it. Then he pulls out his new 2.0 bike. Man, at this rate, he's going to be riding a truck soon. With every upgrade, the thing just keeps growing. This is his super-resistant little bike, forged with rare materials and refined by a craftsman for an elite divine delivery man. It's custom-made for the little guy. It reduces 90% of all damage the rider suffers. He says that he told Hephaestus to fuse it with something. I'm already guessing it's that Hydra scale. Wait, I forgot, the scale is in his hand. And now he's there, touching the bike, saying he never imagined the thing would turn out this badass. The old bike was already pretty good, but he couldn't risk getting paralyzed again like what happened when he was crossing the bridge. As he heads for the portal, he says that now he fears nothing. It's time to take down that lizard monster. In the swamp, our boy was speeding through on his bike, smoothly gliding over the mud and water. He was impressed with this upgrade. The wheels didn't stop for anything. Poor Lucio, on the other hand, was getting all dirty and covered in slime. But then he suddenly stopped and both of them were startled. In the middle of the dungeon, there was an entire city. Not just a city, but a luxurious one. It seemed like he already knew about it because he was thinking. According to the records I was given, I'll find that lizard man after passing through this gate. However, he found it strange. Why was no one guarding anything? That's when a bunch of lizardmen appeared, holding spears in their hands. And the bastard gets annoyed, saying that he basically summoned this disaster upon himself. He should have kept quiet so they wouldn't show up. However, when the first lizardman looks at the gate, there's nothing there. Our boy was hiding there calmly with Lucio and his helmet. Lucio comments about the creatures and the lizard man. He says that's obvious and tells her to get out of his head already. The nymph then wants to know what they're going to do, if he's just going to destroy everything like he usually does. But Hajin knows that this time his mission isn't to kill anything. It's to gather information about the boss. At least this time in theory. He doesn't need to risk his life or face a life or death situation like before. He's going to locate the king, gather intel, and leave safely. You can bet that's exactly how it will go. At least the guards passed by without noticing anything. The creatures were intelligent, but their senses weren't as sharp as he expected. The capitalist is feeling secure, thinking even if things go wrong, I have money to spend at the store. I'll buy something and escape. But out of nowhere, a new delivery arrives in the middle of the dungeon. He's confused. He's on a mission. So why did this just show up? It's right when the light signals that the big guys are coming their way. Man, did you forget to disable notifications? Well, in this case, on the channel, you activate notifications, got it? Don't disable them. You're not in a dungeon, you rascal. He starts running, trying to figure out what's going on, when suddenly he stops. Lucio asks what's wrong, and he says she'll understand soon enough. Well, just as the big lizard comes in for a spear thrust, our boy pulls out his phone. The creature stops because, strangely enough, a delivery mission has arrived for our guide, directly from the Lizard King. Even the big lizard is shocked, looking dumbfounded. Both the creatures and Lucio have no idea what just happened. Hajin finds it odd. He received a delivery from a beast and not a god. But for him, money is money. He then looks at the lizard and says he's in a hurry. They might as well take him straight to the boss. That's when the trembling crocs point towards something. Hajin was about to tell them to stop pointing at his face, but what he hadn't noticed was the giant shadow behind him. As soon as he senses the presence, he slowly turns around. Dear Lord, poor Lizard King, he looks even more wrecked than we do. Alright guys, let's farm this dungeon together. Our boy immediately notices that, yes, there's a crown on its head, but it looks nothing like the creature described in the reports. The king lets out some hiss-hiss sounds, flicking his tongue like a little snake, but yeah, there's no way to understand whatever the hell he's saying. But if there's one thing that can solve any problem, it's money. And all it takes is a translator app, for example. Or even better, getting a translation for free. Lucio offers to translate for our guy. He asks if she understands it, and she replies yes, saying it's easy to master the lizard language because it's pretty simple. The king makes more snake-like sounds, and Hajin asks what he said. Lucio explains. He said that many years ago, a catastrophe fell upon the lizard kingdom. A fierce invader destroyed these lands. From children to eggs to adults, no one was spared. Even the elders were massacred. The entire kingdom was left in ruins. Hajin already knows what they're asking for. No doubt they want him to fight this invader. The boy is sharp. Looking at the poor creatures, he can tell they truly want this. Damn, this is sad. The guy entered the dungeon as a ruthless hunter, but now these damn lizards are looking like Yoshis from Mario. All of them with their shining, pleading eyes begging our boy for help. Even Hajin is questioning why the hell the artist drew these damn creatures so cute. He then says his name is Jose, and he's just a regular delivery guy, not some powerful warrior or incredible hunter. Lucio translates what the king says. If you save my kingdom, you will receive an unimaginably valuable treasure that exists only in the lizard realm. And of course, now that bastard Hajin wants to accept everything. He's too curious to find out exactly what this treasure is. Lucio says the king is calling him to the basement to show him. And right in front of him, Yoshi is kneeling, begging. Our boy now declares, no need to worry about what it is. I'll kill that intruder. Sometime later in the basement. Damn, these damn lizards really do have a ton of treasure. Holy hell, but look at her. The damn bandit is back again, that sneaky little thief. With that smug little mouth of hers, she's saying that by the looks of it, there's a lot of good stuff here. She doesn't know whether to pick the valuable things or just empty the entire place. And now only 10 seconds left before our boy enters the same room. Hajin and Lucio just stopped right in front of the door. And the bastard knows that if the door is this big, there's something good inside. The king, using the last 10 seconds of his life force, tries to open the door. Something shines golden, and then the door swings open. Our boy is standing there, mouth agape. But I have a feeling this place is going to be empty. Just watch. Actually, no. Look at that. It's still full of treasure, and the damn thief is hiding inside. Hajin figures there's as much treasure here as there was in Ares' warehouse. Lucio explains that the king revealed they took all this from the humans who kept invading this place and failing. The king is all proud, but our boy isn't exactly impressed. He was about to say something about the treasure when something caught his attention. Yeah, that something was just a person with stacks of coins on their arm. She looks at the coins falling to the ground with a clink sound and casually greets him, "Yo, what's up, my boy?" The moment she appears, the other lizards stop being cute Yoshis and turn furious. Lucio translates, saying they're shouting to capture the bandit. Yeah, no kidding. My god, but this thief is so useless. She's already immobilized. Hajin wants to know how the hell she got into this place this time. Meanwhile, Suyin is confused. She received a mission to take whatever was in this place, but she doesn't understand how this guy suddenly appeared again. She then looks at our boy and asks, "Junior, don't you remember me?" He explains that she's also working for Hermes and knows that he works for that guy too. So it would be best if he explained that to the lizards. Lucio immediately says that the king wants to know if Hajin really works with that girl. Poor guy, terrified of losing his money, starts crying desperately, saying that he went to an all-boys school and never even had a female senior, so she's making things up. Lucio wants to know why he's crying and says she would never cry just because she's losing money. Hajin then walks up to the girl and tells her to stop trolling. Idiot, I'm not working for Hermes. This leaves the girl confused. She knows he's doing jobs that Hermes wants, so why didn't Hermes tell the boy? Stuyan then says that if he helps her get out of there, she'll do whatever he wants. Our boy will definitely ask her to give him money in some way. He's deep in thought while Lucio warns him not to trust a bandit, which is true. After thinking for a moment, he says, "All right," then with an evil grin, and he tells her that he'll ask for something, but she has to swear to do it at the river of V. She says swearing by the river of Styx is insane, but he just replies, "If you don't want to, I'll let the big lizards slit your throat here, and you can rot in this place." Looking at the blade near her neck, she says, "Fine," and swears on the river of Styx. If he helped her, Suyin Choi, escaped, she promised to do whatever he wanted. He then says it worked, and asks Lucio to explain the situation to the king. A little while later, she was already free, relieved that she hadn't been executed. She thanks Junior for the help, but he immediately responds, "First of all, I'm not your junior. And second, you better be ready for what I'm going to ask." Just like some people watching this video, this girl has peculiar thoughts and is already imagining some very close favors. But of course, our boy would never ask for something like that, right guys? He's a man of culture after all. That's why sometimes I gotta bring in Emigona's works, because we see so many protagonists who never do anything, and once in a while, we need one who actually delivers. But right then, the system screen pops up displaying a mission. Defeat the Crimson Invader of this kingdom and save the Lizard Realm. Time limit, 3 hours. Reward, the kingdom's treasure. He's shocked. 3 hours is way too short. Last time he had 50 hours and even then he was scared. He immediately looks at Lucio and says they need to start running because there's no time to waste. He takes off at full speed, but Junior was about to ask them to wait. Standing next to the king, she thinks to herself, "That bastard is so rude, he didn't even let me finish talking." Strangely enough, the king is still wide awake beside her. That's unusual. Meanwhile, our boy is already on his bike speeding ahead. It's 30 kilometers away, man. This king really gave him no time at all. Getting there in time is the least of his worries. The real problem is what he'll do when he arrives. Lucio asks him to ease up on the accelerator, but he says that's not an option. Suddenly, out of nowhere, Suyin appears in front of him. "Well, looks like you got a little problem," she says. He nearly jumps out of his skin, wondering how the hell this damn girl got there. He slams the brakes and stops right next to her. Already pissed, he asks why the hell she's following him when he told her to stay put. The troublemaker winks and says, I couldn't just let you suffer after saving me like that. He tells her to stay out of it. No matter what happens, he will ask for that favor. But she smirks and says, I'm sure you won't be in such a hurry after you hear what I have to say. She knows exactly what monster he has to hunt, the red drake. That's when our boy remembers. The Sound of One had already mentioned that this was an extremely terrifying creature and that he was only supposed to gather information. Yeah, he really should have been paying more attention. It was obvious from the start. He wonders if Seongjin already knew about the connection between the red drake and the king, since he specifically asked him to check out both. Looking at her, Soo-in doesn't seem too eager to risk her life fighting a creature like that. But she has no choice. She needs to become someone he trusts to get a share of the lizard people's treasure. So she says she knows the fastest route to the red drake and can guide him there. Hajin responds, I thought your only talent was stealing. So how exactly are you going to help me, huh? But the damn girl just smirks and says, here's a tip for you, Junior. Never underestimate the skills of someone you don't know well. She tells him she'll help him find the creature, but she never said she'd fight alongside him. And with all the swagger in the world, she says, a good thief always has a few tricks up her sleeve to escape any problem. A while later, our boy is speeding through a crimson forest, this time with a woman riding on the back of his bike. Damn, this kid is really becoming a beast. Right up ahead, they spot a huge, muscular red lizard. She points at it and says, there, that's the red drake. Now it made sense why Seongjin called it a terrifying monster. Lucio asks if they even stand a chance. Hajin just replies, we'll only know when we try. He immediately shifts his gear to battle mode and activates his helmet. With a super jump, he launches straight at the creature, ready to give it a one punch. The estimated difficulty level of this creature, a level 7 boss, and Hajin smashes it right in the head. Man, I really thought this would be one of those scenes where the monster evaporates on impact, but nope. The damn thing got up roaring, and our boy is hyped. Alright, he grins, time to kick this thing's ass. Looks like he already landed another hit, this time from way up in the sky. The explosion was spreading. From below, Soo-in covered her face, completely stunned. How the hell was he doing this? Since she was chosen by Herms, she's faced countless challenges that most hunters wouldn't even imagine. But even she couldn't wrap her head around what was happening right now. Our boy is out here kicking and punching like Kid Lee. The red drake stumbled and fell backward. Our mad lad is looking exactly like Master Lee, and she knows that the Hunter Association classified this creature as a near level 7 monster. Considering all the monsters that have appeared in dungeons worldwide, this creature ranks in the top 10. Damn, I didn't even know it was that strong. Thanks for the info. She knows that, just like her, this bastard was chosen by Herms, but there's no way he got this strong just because of that. Not to mention, every high-level hunter these days has at least 15 years of experience. On top of that, most of them were chosen by mythical gods. But she's certain that Hajin received his powers less than a year ago. So how is he stronger than hunters with way more experience? And judging by the way the red drake is acting, she's sure something isn't right. Ah, I see now. The drake is searching for our boy, who's up there with his helmet on, wrecking everything without the beast even noticing. That's when the fool finally recognizes he's using a cannon. The monster lets out another roar and comes in for a smashing blow. The attack lands squarely on the ground, but from the looks of it, nothing happened. Hajin is up in the air, commenting that the bastard's plan now is just to swing blindly since it doesn't know where he is. But this damn thing is a monster, and monsters exist for one reason: to drop money and take a punch to the head. The entire ground explodes. A little while later, damn, I think there's barely anything left of the poor thing. Wait, not a little while later, a long time later. Hajin admits he has no idea how many punches he had to throw. But oh damn, the big lizard is still alive. Yeah, this wasn't as easy as it seemed. And now there's a huge problem. His clothing effect is about to wear off. Even though his helmet could still keep him hidden, he wouldn't be able to deal much damage anymore. The only option left? Go all in with everything he's got. He immediately summons the big boy to settle this once and for all. Leaping at the giant lizard, he yells for it to disappear. The beast seems to sense something approaching, but I think that's just a stick to the face. Or maybe not. Man, sometimes the animations confuse me too. The bastard dodged it. The problem is, how did it do that? It can't even see him? Sometimes our boy is an idiot, but this time he gets it. The excessive force from the swing caused the helmet to fail at concealing him. And the real problem? The red drake is now coming in for a crushing blow. The explosion looks like a direct hit, and Soo-in wonders, why the hell didn't that idiot dodge? So far, everything seemed under control. So why did he do that? That's when Lucio speaks up. You're a foolish human. She warns her that if she jumps in now, she'll only get in the way. She might as well stay back and watch. On the other hand, Lucio has no idea where this nymph even came from or why she's hiding in the bushes. But she's confident in our boy. She knows Hajin is fine, so there's no need to worry. He's already been through countless dangerous situations before this, and every time he found a way to survive. That's why so many gods have faith in him today. There's no way someone like Hajin would lose to a monster like this. Soo-in scoffs. I hate to break your expectations, nymph, but that kid just took a direct hit from the big lizard. Nobody survives something like that. But then, she sees something odd. Our boy is climbing. Damn, this big lizard is soft, he mutters. She doesn't understand. Why the hell is he clinging to the boss like that? And why is Lucio suddenly cheering for him? The clothing effect only had 57 seconds left. And right then, in the middle of climbing, our boy notices something. A strange, star-shaped crystal right below the beast's throat, close to its neck. Lucio shouts, warning him. That's the beast's reverse scale. Instantly, he realizes this must be some kind of weak spot. He immediately opens the shop, because if he's gonna kill something like this, he needs an unstoppable or destructive force. Then he asks Lucio, is the red drake a dragon? She replies, I'm not sure, but with a reverse scale like that, it's probably a unique breed of wyvern. At that moment, he buys something from the shop. If that's the case, then it's a kind of dragon, he says. Our boy just went from 1.3 million points to 1 million. I don't know what the effect is, but I do know that this sword was expensive as hell. Look at this bastard. He bought Sigurd's sword, the Dragon Bane, and he's still stuck like a damn idiot in the middle of the beast's chest. Meanwhile, Siren has no idea how the hell he summoned Graham. But Hajin knows one thing. With this sword, he can finally finish the creature by striking its weak point. He moves in for the attack, and the monster's eyes glow engulfed in flames. Oh, judging by Hajin's face, I don't think this is going well. He can't understand. Why the hell are flames suddenly bursting all over the monster's body? With that, our boy is blasted backward, wondering, is this the creature's final trump card? He crashes onto the ground. Oh damn, this is bad. There's no way he can strike the reverse scale while the creature is in this form. Lucio warns him to be careful. Siren rushes over, shouting, get out of there. Phase 2 is way more dangerous. She runs to him, telling him they'll have to work together now. But he shakes his head. No, it's better if you stay back. You can't hide your presence. But of course, this damn girl always has a trick up her sleeve, huh? She smirks. Well then, just sit back and watch what I'm about to do. And with that, she throws a potion, Demeter's tear. It was an ice potion from the goddess of nature and earth. That thing froze any monster or target on contact. In just a second, the Drake King turned into a popsicle. And right away, she says that now our boy just needs to go and finish the job. He asks why the damn girl didn't use something like that from the beginning, to which she replies that it's obvious. She was waiting for the monster to enter its second phase first. The damn girl says it was on purpose. She could have thrown it earlier, and out of nowhere, the two start arguing, until Lucio tells him to act before the creature wakes up. Yeah, guess what? The creature woke up. Really? Genius move. Siren says she never imagined anyone could escape Demeter's prison so easily. And the worst part, the creature's body was once again engulfed in flames. Hajin only had 20 seconds left on his suit. Siren tells him this is her last chance to create an opening for him to finish off the scale. She throws the last potion she has, another tear of Demeter. But this time, it's a plant-based one. Yeah, to be honest, I figured it wouldn't work on plants. It touched the creature's body and melted in an instant. But our boy, with no other option, just charged forward, suit disabled. He jumped straight in to strike the scale directly. A giant purple slash, hitting the indomitable level 7 boss right in its weak spot. Damn, he decapitated it. I thought he only had to break the scale. That bastard actually killed the Red Drake. Meanwhile, over at Songjin's guild headquarters, Doyen is saying that they've finished some research on a few nearby dungeons. The guild leader thanks him and tells him to rest today and prepare himself. But then, Doyen says he heard something while in the elevator and wants to know if it's true. It seems like he received some kind of time bomb from the association to deal with. The leader replies that yes, it's the Lizardman dungeon and they have no idea how they're going to handle it. Apparently, they've already received the information that our boy cleared the dungeon 2 days ago. When he got the call from Hajin saying he was done, he thought it was about the investigation. But then Doyen says, no, he didn't finish the investigation. He killed the Red Drake. That wasn't the plan at all, but just kinda happened. Songjin, of course, thought the bastard was joking. But when he sent a team to check the dungeon, they saw the truth. He never expected the boy to suddenly change his mind and do something like this. The problem is, how the hell is he going to explain to the association that this happened? Of course, it's a huge relief to everyone the creature that was about to be released and destroy the city was finally killed. But on the other hand, the fact that it died so suddenly is now a problem they'll struggle to explain. That's because the contract with Hajin had a clause stating that his identity couldn't be disclosed under any circumstances. But someone has to take credit for killing the level 7 monster, and whoever it is will be under suspicion from everyone. Doyen is hyped, saying that the delivery man is an absolute beast. At this rate, he can beat up most top hunters. Songjin sighs, saying that at this rate, he'll have to lower his rank to A. Immediately, Doyen changes his mind. Never mind. There's no need to raise his rank. Nobody needs to know he killed the thing. Let's just leave it be. And now Songjin is wondering. He took down the Red Drake, but what about the information on the Lizard King? And there we are, right in the fancy-ass castle. Yoshi comes rushing in, furious, ready to pray to our boy, the savior of everyone. Lucio says they're thanking him for saving them, and tells him to stop translating the obvious. He then grabs the king's hand and tells him, I just did what was necessary. There's no need to bow in gratitude. Poor king. He probably doesn't realize that what our boy really wants is for him to thank him with money. Obviously, before I even looked at this scene, I already knew. And now look at him. He looks sick. Then Yoshi brings out a huge treasure chest that looks like one of those bad loot chests. Ah, yeah. They open it and both of them look impressed. So I guess it's something amazing. Inside, there's a tiny bag. And that's it. The king asks if he likes it. But like every other time, our boy is standing there thinking, what a piece of junk. He's about to complain to the king, saying that he risked his life to kill an insanely strong creature, only to get a sack. But as always, Lucio knows exactly what this is. She says it's not just any sack. Hajin asks what it is, and she explains. It's like a game inventory. You can keep putting things inside and it'll never run out of space. The scene then skips to the next day. The deep web Yoshis are all saying goodbye to our boy. Early in the morning, our boy receives a call from Seonjin with some news. It seems like the Innocent City Gate has disappeared. Most likely, the gate's existence was just a way for the lizardmen to escape in case they were attacked by the Red Drake. But now that their kingdom is safe, they don't need it anymore. So the portal was undone. Only now does he realize that maybe there are ways to close portals without necessarily killing everything inside. If that's true, maybe monsters and humans don't always have to be fighting. Or maybe he's just dreaming too much, and it's impossible for them to live in peace. While he's lost in thought, Siren calls out to him and congratulates him. She says she saw what reward he received and is sure it'll be really useful. He says yes, but asks if she's happy with how everything turned out. She used those valuable potions and didn't even get anything in return. But she replies that she would never get involved in something if she didn't have a way to benefit from it. That sneaky girl is hiding something on her arm, huh? Damn little thief. He asks what the deal is and where she got it. Without answering anything, the sly girl is already walking away, saying that she enjoyed the days spent with him. And thanks to the boy, she got exactly what she wanted. Just like that, she's gone, and our boy stands there, thinking that a thief is always a thief. But that was no longer his problem. It was time to go home. Lucio asks if they're leaving already, and he says, unfortunately, no. First, he has to collect what they owe him. Man, here comes 8 billion. That's like $8 million. Seonjin says they'll analyze the entire body of the Red Drake and also send him a share of the profits. Dan, our boy, must have forgotten that you can make a lot of money from monster corpses. He's so used to just doing deliveries that he forgot that this is sometimes the most profitable part of dungeons. From now on, maybe he shouldn't leave any monsters behind. Lucio is wondering why he's so excited. Man, just tell her to come eat breakfast already. But she smells chicken and finds it odd. It looks like they ate chicken earlier, and he thought she wouldn't want any. But now she's desperate to eat. He hands her a soda, but she doesn't care and burns her tongue anyway. Our boy wonders if she starved to death in a past life. He's there eating reheated chicken from yesterday, saying, when chicken is good, it doesn't matter. Even the next day is still amazing. Not long ago, he was eating the worst chicken available in stores. And man, that stuff gave him heartburn. But now the damn guy can spend $30 on chicken like it's nothing. Life with money really was good. This capitalist never stops. While Lucio says she'll share her chicken bone with him. Right at that moment, a new delivery arrives. Actually, not a delivery. A request for a delivery. As soon as Lucio sees it, she starts stuffing all the chicken into her mouth, because she knows they're about to head out on another cursed adventure. But our boy isn't living that hustle life anymore. He says, first we eat breakfast, then we'll do the delivery. Now that he has 10 billion in his account, he can take things a little easier. What doesn't seem so calm, though, is the Greek territory. The entire city is burning with countless dead. One of the soldiers says they can't stop now. They can't let this beast advance. They attack a creature with golden eyes, standing in the middle of the smoke. Meanwhile, someone informs His Majesty that they're fighting with everything they have. But even that isn't enough. There's no way they can stop this monster's brute force. The king, on the other hand, wants to know, what about the hero they summoned? The soldier explains that they sent people to fetch the hero, but unfortunately, it will take 3 days for him to arrive. The king says that's too long. By then, the palace and everyone inside will be destroyed. Right at that moment, the entire place starts shaking. An explosion erupts on the fortress walls, and the Minotaur steps in, face to face with the king, who is trembling, calling out to Poseidon, asking if he has truly abandoned them in this moment of need. Meanwhile, at Hephaestus' house, our boy doesn't understand why he isn't there. Lucio says maybe he left early because they're late. Our boy says it's Lucio's fault. That damn girl wanted to put chicken thighs in the air fryer before they left. And now our boy is thinking, his phone really has been ringing a lot, so maybe this is something urgent. Yeah, now Hajin really messed up, huh, guys? The dude was eating chicken thighs while people were dying. What a bastard. Right at that moment, Lucio looks behind her, and someone approaches. It's Hephaestus, looking pissed. Finally, over here. Immediately, our boy freezes up, awkwardly asking, you guys need a delivery? Hephaestus says he called him because it's urgent. Something needs to be handled right now. What he has to do won't be easy, but they'll discuss the details inside. The fool just nods and says he understands. At the table, the little dwarf says it's a major dilemma and he doesn't even know where to start. For some reason, Hajin looks dumber than usual and says, start wherever you want. I'll do my best to understand. This time he's more scared than ever, because strangely, Hephaestus is really hesitant, which means something dangerous is coming. Then Hephaestus mentions that conversation he had with Freya. Hajin remembers. That story about the realms being divided into 7 parts. Then the dwarf reveals. He was hoping that the Olympians and others could handle this situation. But things are only getting worse. It seems that the creatures invading have already reached places beyond where the gods can go. At the Olympian Council, they were able to understand the situation better. The creatures aren't just invading other mythological realms. They're already crossing into the human world. The seed of this catastrophe wasn't just present in the higher realms. It already invaded the lower worlds and even the underworld. And the real problem? Because of the law of causality, the gods can't interfere with what the creatures are doing in the human world. The only lucky thing, the creatures can't move as freely as they want. All the creatures do is plant some seeds, wait for them to grow, and then see what happens. That's when Hajin calls for Hephaestus and says he's completely lost. What's this talk about seeds? Who are these gods? What's going on? His friend asks if he really has no idea, and he says, "Of course I'm talking about," but suddenly, everything freezes. Hajin says he didn't understand and asks him to repeat it. Lucia repeats that she only heard a strange static noise. Hephaestus realizes that due to the laws of the gods, he can't pass this information to the boy. A long time ago, the gods joined forces to seal the existence of this thing, and it's no surprise that even speaking its name is forbidden. He then tells the boy not to worry. With time, he will learn the details. After all, the job he's about to do today is connected to all of this. He explains that they were supposed to receive a tribute from someone named Cretin, but it still hasn't arrived. He was lucky his father didn't hear about it since he's preoccupied with the council meeting, because if he'd have found out, he'd be furious. That's why our boy needs to figure out what's going on before the guy finds out. And of course, he'll be generously rewarded. From what I understand, they were supposed to receive something, but they didn't. And they don't want Poseidon to find out because he would give them hell. Yeah, I think that's it. Our boy says that based on their reasoning, it doesn't seem that urgent. So why the rush? Lucio explains that if it were any other king, it wouldn't be a big deal. But this is King Minos. For him, being late for anything is completely unacceptable. It seems that King Minos was a man who plunged his own land into chaos, all because he defied Poseidon by refusing to sacrifice a white bull. That's how the infamous labyrinth was created, a place where anyone who enters is doomed, because inside, a minotaur is imprisoned. I still don't get what being late has to do with a minotaur, but I'm sure we'll figure it out soon, especially since our boy is already arriving on his bike. Or not, actually. His water walking buff is running out, and he's going to have to stop on this little island before he dies. Lucio tells him he should be more careful. Our boy responds that he didn't know it was this far away. He decides to buy something from the shop to help him swim. But Theseus boat, 30 million. The Argonauts ship, 50 million. Noah's Ark, 100 million. Yeah, there's no way he can afford any of that. Lucio wants to know what they're going to do, and our boy says the only option is to look around for now. Maybe they'll find something useful. He reaches into his infinite bag and says, "This is exactly why I brought this thing." He'd already stuffed it with tons of things he thought might be useful. He should have packed a boat, dumbass. Not these binoculars to stand there scouting. That's when he sees a temple on the horizon, smoke rising from it. He figures it might be a good stop if he wants to reach Cretan Island. And then suddenly, a soldier appears in his binocular view, asking who they are. Not just one soldier, but several, demanding to know why they've invaded this land. Our boy asks them to calm down. He's just here to find a boat to get to Cretan Island. When one of the soldiers gets angry, asking if he even knows where he is, someone puts a hand on his shoulder. A peculiar man speaks. "If you don't mind, I'd like to hear what he has to say." Our boy thinks this guy is weird. I think he's the most suspicious person here. The dude doesn't even have eyes drawn. Oh, wait, that's actually Theseus, another damn legendary hero. For the first time, our boy seems to recognize him, and Lucio instantly says, Theseus is the legendary hero who killed the Minotaur. Not to mention, he was the only person to escape the labyrinth. He even became king of the Athenians and with the help of many gods embarked on countless adventures. Theseus says that, judging by the peculiar outfit, he must be the divine delivery man he's been hearing about. Seeing the boy's reaction, Theseus is already sure that he's right. He explains that it wasn't hard to guess. After all, not everyone walks around in that kind of outfit. Apparently, he heard about our boy from Captain Jason of the Argo Company. Then our boy remembers. That's the guy who asked him to deal with those sirens. But he's confused about this rising hero thing. Theseus says, "It seems you don't know what people are saying about you. Not only do they all know that he did the impossible, invading the siren's nest, but he also killed the Hydra, and even healed Chiron's leg. On top of that, he even went to Helheim to deliver something to those damn Norse gods." The boy is making a name for himself, and now everyone in the divine realms knows about him. Now the bastard is full of himself. Damn smug bastard, saying he really did do all of that. Lucio is curious about what they're saying about her. Theseus says, "I've heard that the divine delivery man has some sort of assistant." The poor girl collapses to the ground, devastated, saying she's been reduced to an assistant. Then Theseus hands him a piece of paper and says, "If you're interested in getting to Cretan Island, this will help." Our boy takes a look, and damn, there it is. He handed him the legendary map. But then, Lucio warns that the paper also mentions that the threat is back. Hajin asks, "Didn't you kill a Minotaur a long time ago?" The god explains that he never actually killed the minotaur, he sealed it away forever in the labyrinth. The problem is, he doesn't know how the seal was broken. That's why, tomorrow morning he's heading to Cretan to finally kill the creature for good. And he asks if the divine delivery man wants to come along. Hajin is undecided. He wasn't planning on fighting a monster this time. But the boy is motivated and says he can count on him. Now he's acting all heroic, saying, "Things don't always go the way you want them to." Meanwhile, that king guy is in the minotaur's grip, and I can't tell if he's being carried or trampled. But I do know that the minotaur is not happy. The next morning, our boy is waking up Lucio, who as always wants 5 more minutes. He tells her to get up already because the boat is about to leave and they don't have time for nonsense. Poor Lucio, begging to stop being treated so harshly. Hajin looks out the window, hoping that at least Theseus managed to recruit enough people to help. The day before, Theseus told him to sleep well and get plenty of rest. He was going to try and gather as many people as possible for this journey. That's when Hajin asked, "How did you stop the Minotaur the first time?" Theseus explained that he had the help of Princess Ariadne of Cretan. The Minotaur is an unimaginable existence that brought disaster upon King Minos and his entire royal family. The creature's existence is said to be a divine punishment, the price of defying a god. The strange thing is, this creature was supposed to have been trapped in the depths of the labyrinth forever. So how did it return to life with enough strength to destroy all of Cretan again? Theseus explained that this is exactly what he wants to find out. That's why the journey must be quick before everything is destroyed. He wants to end this for good so it never happens again. Our boy then asks, "Why are you trying to gather so many people instead of just going right away?" Theseus explains that he thought the same thing, until he heard what Hercules had to say. Apparently, the guy never actually said what Hercules said, because our boy is still wondering about it. He imagines that it might be connected to what Hephaestus was talking about back at the shop. It was already bad enough facing monsters, but it was even worse when he had this feeling that he was getting involved in something much bigger than he should. Lucio says she's ready for the adventure, and Hajin realizes she has no idea how much danger they're getting into. At the docks, the soldiers were loading crates onto the ship when our boy called out to Theseus. The hero replies, "I thought I'd have to wake you up, kid." Because Lucio says that Hajin sleeps too much and is a lazy bum. The guy says it's fine and tells them to get on board. They'll meet the rest of the group later. Our boy is impressed with how massive the ship is. Maybe it's because this ship once belonged to the Argonauts, but it really does look like a pirate ship straight out of an anime. Theseus responds, "Of course, it belonged to a legendary hero after all." Our boy asks what Lucio just said, but she says it wasn't her this time. Now he's confused, because only a nymph would say something that irritating in such a high-pitched voice. Someone turns around and says, "That's the normal reaction of a countryside nymph," and a random guy stands there. Our boy turns around and, my god, here comes Lucio 2.0. This is turning into Cosmo and Wanda, and the damn guy is literally a short-haired version of Lucio. And the worst part, she knows him. She calls him Louvor and says it's been a long time. She gets all affectionate, saying she never imagined he'd start helping Theseus. Meanwhile, Louvor is holding her face back, telling her, "Don't get close. We are not friends." This is the second nymph our boy has seen, and he realizes it wasn't a lie when Lucio said she was tall. Then someone asks, "What are you still doing here, Louvor?" It's Theseus, telling him to help the guests get to their rooms. Our boy apologizes and says it's not Louvor's fault. He also has a troublesome nymph to deal with. The hero says it's fine and tells them to get ready. They're departing now. Our boy asks Louvor to show them to their rooms, but Louvor is still recovering from being roasted and smacked by Lucio. Inside the ship, damn, they're actually staying in a pretty fancy room. Then Louvor thanks our boy for not telling Theseus that he was fighting. Our boy says it's all good. If he's friends with Lucio, then they're friends too. And just like that, they're already arguing. Louvor sighs, says fine, and leaves a little sad. Our boy finds it strange and asks if Theseus treats him badly. Lucio explains, in the end, every nymph is treated like a servant. It's not that Theseus treats him badly. It's that our boy treats her differently. Hajin knows it's probably because, in mythology, slavery was seen as acceptable. Obviously, for someone from a modern world, that makes no sense at all. With that, the ship set sail, and they were already at sea. Theseus muttered to himself, "I never thought I'd be diving into this labyrinth again." They arrive at the city, and the soldiers began disembarking. The entire place was in ruins. My god. Our boy was shocked. This wasn't a city. It was a pile of rubble. And the worst part, the people there looked like they had died horribly. Theseus knows this is all the Minotaur's doing. They at least needed to find any survivors. Louvor then points ahead and says, at the very least, one building still looks intact. Standing untouched amid the destruction was the Temple of Poseidon. Most likely, since this was a punishment from the god himself, the beast didn't have the courage to go near it. They'd all walked toward the temple, but they could already see the trail of blood leading to the doors. As soon as Theseus opened it, thinking the Minotaur might be inside, he saw a crowd of people, desperate. The people became emotional when they saw it was Theseus. He was relieved to see that at least some had survived. The few who made it out alive were being escorted to the boats, and our boy felt relieved knowing that some lives had been spared. That's when an old man came up behind him, calling for him. saying he had important information. The Minotaur had taken King Minos hostage. Our boy with his galaxy-brained IQ of 32 asks, where did it take the king? Bro, are you serious? Obviously, it took him to the deepest pits of the labyrinth. And the real problem? The longer they take, the harder it'll be to get likes on this video that helps Mamoru make more juicy content for his viewers. Activate the cheeky little bell, and I'm out.